Chapter 594. There were countless races in the heaven-awakened world, and no one knew exactly how many there were. It was possible that there were tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of races, but they were roughly split into 8 main races. First, the human race referred to creatures with a human form as their foundation. They were intelligent and had a pure human bloodline. For example, the humans on Earth and some other races that met the requirements could be called the human race. Second, the devil race referred to creatures with beast-like forms and intelligence. High-level devils could turn into humanoid forms, such as the six-eyed flood dragon and the wind dragon lord. Third, the demon race included all demon races, and those with pure demon bloodlines were also called the demon race. Fourth, outlanders referred to all other races, such as elves, orcs, goblins, and kobold. They were all called outlanders. Even though some races had humanoid forms, they did not have human bloodlines, so they were excluded by the human race and called outlanders. Fifth, the god race referred to creatures with divine attributes, including gods and god descendants. They were creatures with divine blood, so they were also called the god race. There were also creatures created by gods, such as angels and elemental spirit. Sixth, the water race referred to creatures that lived in water. There were many water regions in the heaven-awakened world, and the water race mainly lived in them. There were all sorts of strange creatures. Some were humanoid forms, some were beast-like forms, but they did not belong to the human race, devil race, or outlander race, so they were called the water race. Seventh, the death race included all undead creatures and ghosts. There were also some underworld races, such as the black and white impermanences, Oxhead, and Horseface. Eighth, the spirit race referred to creatures with intelligence. For example, a stone, a tree, or an orb of fire all had their own consciousness and intelligence. They were all from the spirit race, and out of the 8 major races, the spirit race was the least numerous. Out of the 8 major races, the human race was relatively weak, but it was very tolerant and could accept the other 7 major races. As such, it had a lot of power in the heaven-awakened world. If one had to choose the most powerful races, there would be 3. The devil race, the god race, and the demon race. The devil race could control tens of thousands of beasts, and their powerful bodies could easily destroy worlds. The god race and devil race's innate attributes were much better than the other races, so the 3 races were stronger than the other 5 races. Apart from races, there were also nations. Nations in the heaven-awakened world were split into many levels. The weakest nation was called a barony kingdom, followed by a marquiate kingdom, a dukedom kingdom, a royal kingdom, an imperial kingdom, an empire, and a holy kingdom. Each level was split into 9 levels, such as a level 1 barony to a level 9 barony. These barony kingdoms were created by a powerful kingdom, and they were given a piece of land to establish their own kingdom. A marquiate was similar to a vassal, and only a dukedom had a certain amount of power. A royal kingdom's power was above that of a royal kingdom, and an empire was above that of an imperial kingdom. The highest level was a holy empire, and it was the most powerful kingdom. It reigned above everything else, and it was extremely rare. Apart from these kingdoms, there were also divine kingdoms. However, these divine kingdoms were directly controlled by godly spirits, and were not part of the heaven-awakened world's system of kingdoms. These kingdoms differentiated the strength of each kingdom. If the Qin kingdom established a kingdom, it would be equivalent to a level 1 barony kingdom. Only with a level 1 barony kingdom would they have some means to protect themselves, and one could imagine how difficult it would be in the future. Besides gold coins, there were also purple gold coins, crystal coins, and high-grade holy coins. 1 purple gold coin was equal to 100 gold coins, 1 crystal coin was equal to 100 purple gold coins, and 1 holy coin was equal to 100 crystal coins. Only high-grade kingdoms had holy coins, and it was impossible to see them in low-grade kingdoms. Gold coins were the most common currency in the heaven-awakened world. There were also higher grades of equipment. Above epic grade equipment there were 3 grades: Saint Armaments, Earth God Armaments, and Emperor Heaven Armament. Each grade was split into 12 levels, such as Level 1 Saint Armaments and Level 12 Saint Armaments, which were Level 1 Earth God Armaments. Earth God Armaments were equivalent to godly weapons. Next was Cultivation. Above Stage 9 there were 9 realms: Saint Realm, Earth Realm, Heaven Realm, Harmony Realm, Great Earth Realm, World Realm, Divine Realm, Extreme Heaven Realm, and Emperor Heaven Realm. Just like Stage 9, there were 4 levels: Low, Medium, High, and Extreme. People in each realm had terrifying power that could destroy the heavens and earth, and Saint Realm cultivators could directly kill godly spirit. The gods they were talking about here weren't just slaying clones. They were slaying true gods. Of course, they would only be able to kill some weaker gods. However, the higher one's cultivation base was, the higher the gods they would be able to kill. Right now, Zhao Fu was just a bit away from breaking through to Stage 4, so he did not have to think about the realms after Stage 9. The road ahead was too long, and he would take a heavy blow. However, now that Zhao Fu had heaven grade and a sovereign bloodline, his cultivation speed was still quite fast. That was just the basic information about the Heaven Awaken world, and there were many more details. Moreover, the Level 6 Chaotic World Stone Steel had not leveled up yet, so it would take some time for him to leave the Legacy Land. Seeing that there was not much to do, Zhao Fu thought about how he had not returned to the real world for a while and that he would be famished, so he decided to return to the real world first. Just as his consciousness returned to his mind, he felt a familiar sense of hunger, and Zhao Fu opened his eyes. He had his bodyguard prepare some food, and he found out that countless people wanted to see him. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided not to see them all for now. However, after the bodyguard brought food, Zhao Fu sat on the sofa and had only eaten a few bites when he heard the bodyguard say that Wu Qingyang wanted to see him. Zhao Fu did not want to see her, so he let her in. After not seeing Wu Qingyang for a while, she had become more mature and beautiful. Zhao Fu looked at her and lightly smiled as he asked, "Qingyang, what is it?" Wu Qingyang smiled as she sat next to Zhao Fu and hugged Zhao Fu. She rested her head on Zhao Fu's shoulder and said softly, "Of course it's because I missed you." Zhao Fu felt quite startled and hesitated. However, he did not hug her and only nodded. Wu Qingyang hugged Zhao Fu for a while before letting go of Zhao Fu and hugging Zhao Fu's hand instead. She rested her head on Zhao Fu's shoulder and said, "You've been so busy recently, and it's been so difficult to see you. Do you feel more confident now that you're the leader of the Ying family and Emperor Qin's legatee?" To be honest, Wu Qingyang pinched Zhao Fu's waist. Zhao Fu dryly laughed in pain and could only apologize as he replied, "I've been quite busy recently and have a lot of things to do." Chapter 595. Zhao Fu thought for a moment before replying, "Let's do what we need to do. Even though Qin's recovery will end the shift in fate, the other dynasty legatees and factions will focus their attention on Qin, and they might do things against Qin. However, it's impossible for Qin not to recover. Not only will that be bad for them, but it will also be bad for Qin. As such, Qin will try to recover as soon as possible." Wu Qingyang nodded and raised her head to kiss Zhao Fu on the cheek as she smiled and said, "All right, I'll be going now. I'm leaving now, but the next time I come, do I still need to ask for a favor from you?" Zhao Fu smiled as he replied, "There's no need for that. I'll give some instructions and you can come in." Wu Qingyang harumphed, "At least you're tactful." Suddenly, Wu Qingyang pushed Zhao Fu onto the sofa and pressed her body against Zhao Fu's as she kissed Zhao Fu's lip. Her tongue domineeringly entered Zhao Fu's mouth, and their tongues intertwined, creating a wondrous feeling. After a while, Wu Qingyang got up, her face red, and she looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes as she said, "I'll be going now." Zhao Fu lightly nodded, and after Wu Qingyang left, Zhao Fu sighed. Zhao Fu did not know what to do with Wu Qingyang. After eating, Zhao Fu met with the Ying family's leaders. They were mainly concerned about the current situation, and after Zhao Fu gave them a brief explanation, they felt at ease and left. Most of the others were representatives of various factions. Because Qin was incredibly important to the shift in fate, they wanted to see what Qin was thinking. The officials also came, trying to persuade Qin to let go of his grudges and unite. Other forces could also provide some help, hoping that Qin could recover quickly and end the shift of fate. Zhao Fu didn't see any of these people, nor did he need their help. Zhao Fu also conveyed Qin's message, which made them all feel relieved. There was no other way. Although he had helped them, it was impossible for Qin to be dragged down by them. In that case, it would be Qin who would suffer losses, and it would not benefit Qin at all. Moreover, Zhao Fu knew a bigger crisis. They couldn't let Qin die because of them, so they could only do this. Finally, there were some people who wanted to see Zhao Fu. One of them was Su Yuyan, who had most likely come for Flower Moon's people. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to meet her. Su Yuyan walked in and angrily looked at Zhao Fu as she asked, "Flower Moon isn't opposing Qin, so why is Qin capturing Flower Moon's people again and again?" Zhao Fu sincerely apologized. "I'm very sorry." Su Yuyan had never thought that Zhao Fu would apologize so sincerely, and her anger dissipated by half. Her tone became much weaker as she asked, "When do you plan to release our people?" "That won't do. Their bodies have already entered the Heaven Awakened world, and with Qin's protection, they'll be very safe." Zhao Fu directly refused. Su Yuyan had thought that Zhao Fu was going to release her people, but who would have thought that he would still do this? Her anger rose up again as she said, "Flower Moon's people don't need Qin's protection. Please release our people, Qin." Hearing Su Yuyan's impolite words, Zhao Fu's expression became slightly cold as he said, "So what? Do you think Qin is afraid of Flower Moon? You've fought against Qin before, so you're Qin's enemies. You've caused great losses to Qin, so do you think you can just let it go? Also, that Li Wu is still in your hands, right? What do you think you're doing?" Su Yuyan was speechless, and she felt a chill in her heart. Indeed, Qin was not afraid of Flower Moon, and if they continued to oppose Qin, the ones at a disadvantage would be Flower Moon, not Qin. At that moment, Su Yuyan made a decision. She deeply breathed in and said, "I'll take care of Li Wu. Also, as long as you release Flower Moon's people, my body will be yours." Zhao Fu felt quite startled before smiling and saying, "I'm sorry, but I can't promise you that. They're already legatees women and are living quite well, so you don't have to worry about them. I can help them pass on a message or some note." They really are legatee Qin's women. Su Yuyan's heart sank because there was no hope of saving her sisters. She felt quite furious towards legatee Qin, who was so lascivious and licentious. She didn't know that the person in front of her was legatee Qin. If she found out about this in the future, who knew what she would think? Since she couldn't save her sisters, she could only hope that they would live a better life. She could only place her hopes on Zhao Fu. After all, he was legatee Qin's favorite, and with his help, her sisters would be able to live a good life. "Zhao Fu, can you help us take care of Flower Moon's people?" Su Yuyan's voice was not as sharp as before, and it became much softer as she said to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly nodded and agreed because Zhao Fu wouldn't harm them anyway. Su Yuyan felt at ease and smiled as she walked over to Zhao Fu's side and bent down to kiss Zhao Fu's cheek. She then whispered into Zhao Fu's ear, "This is for you." Following this, Su Yuyan left. Now that Zhao Fu was the acting leader of the Ying family, he didn't lack wealth, power, or women. He could have anything he wanted. Su Yuyan's only advantage was herself, and he was quite confident in her. Indeed, if she could get on good terms with Zhao Fu, it would be equivalent to getting on good terms with legatee Qin. Not only would this be beneficial to Flower Moon, but it would also be beneficial to the captured sisters. Zhao Fu felt quite startled. He had never thought that Su Yuyan would take the initiative to kiss him. Elsewhere, Su Yuyen returned to her faction. After thinking about it for a while, she sighed and gave the order to kill Li Wu. If she wanted to progress with Legatee Qin, he definitely couldn't stay. Li Wu didn't know about any of this. He was currently conquering villages in the Heaven Awakened world, and everything was going quite smoothly. Right now, Li Wu only had one thought in his mind, which was to develop his faction and marry Su Yuyen. Su Yuyen was his only hope, and she was the woman he had set his heart on. Even though Li Wu had a few beautiful women in the village, they were just tools for Li Wu to vent his frustrations on. Li Wu only had Su Yuyen in his heart. At that moment, Li Wu was forcefully woken up and fed a bottle of medicine by a few people. In just a few seconds, he fell to the ground and died, not knowing what had happened even after he died. Su Yuyen had specially prepared a poison that would not cause him any pain and would kill him quickly. This was the only consolation for Li Wu. This was how nobodies were. They couldn't resist at all. Chapter 596. The last people Zhao Fu went to see were Mei Xiaoyan and Jing Jiao, and he directly asked, "What does the White Lotus Society want?" Mei Xiaoyan sat on Zhao Fu's lap and hugged Zhao Fu's neck as she said coquettishly, "Nothing much, but does Qin really want to quickly recover?" In actuality, dragging the various dynasty legatees down would be beneficial. Qin Kingdom might not develop, but the various dynasty legatees would suffer great losses. Zhao Fu understood what the White Lotus Society was thinking. Everyone would die together, but Zhao Fu did not plan to do that. After all, Qin Kingdom was the leader, so he said resolutely, "Emperor Qin has already made his decision, and no one can change it." Mei Xiaoyan tried to persuade him a bit more, but seeing that she could not change Zhao Fu's mind, she could only leave and report this matter to her superiors. Zhao Fu then looked at Jing Jiao, who was sitting on the sofa, and asked, "What do you want?" Jing Jiao's face became slightly red, and she looked around before getting up and sitting on Zhao Fu's lap. She lightly hugged Zhao Fu's waist and leaned her head against Zhao Fu's chest as she said softly, "Thank you for saving my family." Because of Jing Jiao's identity, Zhao Fu felt quite uncomfortable with her actions, but he still said, "You should be at ease with my cousin. You're safe now, and you're no longer a threat. Moreover, you like him." "I don't want to. I've already said that I'll be your woman. Can I break up with your cousin now?" Jing Jiao's eyes became slightly moist as she looked at Zhao Fu with a pleading gaze. Seeing this, Zhao Fu did not know what to say. At that moment, Jing Jiao suddenly stretched out her hand and stroked Zhao Fu's lower body. Sensing the changes there, she said shyly, "You said you didn't have any feelings for me, but you're already reacting." Zhao Fu felt quite speechless. Mei Xiaoyan had teased him before, and now that Jing Jiao's alluring body was sitting on top of him and feeling the warmth of her body, as a man, his body definitely reacted instinctively. Zhao Fu was not a eunuch. It was better to end the conversation. Zhao Fu also wanted to say something and was about to push Jing Jiao away. However, Jing Jiao sensed something, and she raised her head and suddenly kissed Zhao Fu's lip. She shyly stuck her tongue into Zhao Fu's mouth, continuously teasing Zhao Fu's tongue. That intimate feeling caused Zhao Fu to lose control and have a slight reaction. However, Zhao Fu still pushed her away. Jing Jiao's face became red as she shyly smiled and said, "I'm your woman now, and you can't even escape." Zhao Fu felt quite helpless. Even though he didn't want to, some things had indeed happened. Jing Jiao happily leaned into Zhao Fu's embrace and stroked Zhao Fu's chest, and Zhao Fu did not push her away. Their relationship was quite messy, and Zhao Fu felt quite a headache. In the end, he had Jing Jiao leave. Zhao Fu returned to the Heaven Awakened world. By now, the Otherworld Gate had been constructed, and Zhao Fu had built it a few hundred meters underground. He was quite worried that something would forcefully enter the Legacy Land through the Otherworld Gate. As such, Zhao Fu had built it a few hundred meters underground and set up some restrictions. If anything unexpected happened, he could destroy the Otherworld Gate. On the other hand, this would increase their concealment and prevent others from discovering them. After all, the Otherworld Gate was a very important item to Qin. Zhao Fu went to an underground region that was 100 meters wide. There was a platform that was dozens of meters wide, and there was a magic formation on the platform. At the center of the magic formation was a pair of iron doors, or rather, a doorframe. The doorframe seemed to be made of iron, and it was 2 meters wide and 3 meters tall. There were 2 iron pillars that were as thick as 3 fingers, and there were many flowers and branches at the top. There was a Heaven Domain stone at the center that gave off a rainbow-colored light and looked quite beautiful. Because there was no door, it was just a doorframe. Right now, there was nothing inside the doorframe, and it looked like a gray-black screen. There was still one last thing missing, which was the transboundary teleportation channel. However, the Otherworld Gate was finally complete. With the help of the 1.2 million soldiers and the village finding compass, they quickly cleared 2/3 of the region, and there was still 1/3 of the region left. The chaotic world stone steel was only a few hundred war points away from leveling up to level 6. At that moment, the team in charge of clearing brought back an item. It was another altar, just like the demon altar that Zhao Fu had obtained before. It was a godly spirit altar that could be used to summon godly spirits and change professions. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised about this. Qin had already killed a godly spirit once, so he could naturally kill a godly spirit a second time, a third, a fourth, or even a fifth time. Qin did not dare to act against high-level godly spirits, but bullying weaker godly spirits was quite easy. He could refine their clones and obtain their divinity. Divinity was the source of a godly spirit, and losing even a bit of it would greatly decrease their strength. It was an incredibly precious thing, and even in the true Heaven Awakened world, it was incredibly rare, and ordinary people would not be able to obtain it. Even though fusing with divinity could give one the god-killer profession, no matter how powerful it was still a person. Moreover, Zhao Fu already had it, so he could use it in other ways. There were many uses for divinity. Not only could it be fused into one's body, but it could also be fused into equipment and trees. No matter what it was fused into, it would cause massive changes. The altar that Zhao Fu had obtained this time could summon a god called Dokol. Dokol was a beast god that looked like a horse. It was snow-white and had 2 pure white eyes that looked like 2 gems. In the Heaven Awakened world, there were many types of godly spirits, such as the demon god, the goddess of life that the elves worshipped, and the water god that Zhao Fu had obtained. There were many types of godly spirits, and it was impossible to know just how many there were. However, because of their systems, they were rejected by the Heaven Awakened world's natural laws, so they could only stay in the outside world. In other words, apart from the boundless Heaven Awakened world, there was another outside world. This outside world was also incredibly big, and it was called the Godly Spirit World. This world was attached to the Heaven Awakened world, and because it was filled with all sorts of godly spirits, it was called the Godly Spirit World. However, other creatures that were rejected by the natural laws would also be banished to the Godly Spirit World. The demon god and the beast god were all from the Godly Spirit World, and because they were restricted by the natural laws, it was quite difficult for them to descend. Of course, it was almost impossible for ordinary people to enter the Godly Spirit World. Chapter 597. 2 days later, a system announcement sounded out in Zhao Fu's mind. The chaotic world stone steel had finally leveled up to level 6. Zhao Fu could not help but feel excited, and he immediately went to the chaotic world stone steel and bought the transboundary teleportation channel. Looking at the orb of orange light in his hand, Zhao Fu went to the Otherworld Gate and fused the orb of orange light into the magic formation underground. The magic formation was immediately activated and gave off waves of orange light. The Otherworld Gate's black-gray barrier became rainbow-colored and gave off dazzling light. It was finally possible to go outside. Zhao Fu suppressed his excitement and started to make some preparations. This was his first time going outside, and he did not know what the situation was like. As such, he had to make preparations to prevent anything from going wrong. As for everything in Qin City, Zhao Fu left it to Bai Qi to manage. Bai Qi could be said to be one of Zhao Fu's most important generals. Following this, Zhao Fu finished his preparations and once again came before the door to the outside world. He deeply breathed in and decided to go by himself this time. Zhao Fu did not want to bring anyone with him, as they would be too big of a target. Moreover, now that Zhao Fu had recovered half of his strength, protecting himself would not be a problem. After stepping into the otherworld gate, Zhao Fu felt a massive power pull at his body, causing him to feel dizzy. This lasted for about a minute. After coming back to his senses, Zhao Fu found that he was on a grassy plain. This was the outside of the Legacy Land. A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face, and he found a hidden place to set up a teleportation channel to return. Following this, because Zhao Fu did not know the situation here and did not know the way, he continued to fly forward. Right now, the only thing that Zhao Fu was sure of was that he was at the boundary of a kingdom. Most kingdoms would set up a kingdom boundary, and there were extremely powerful restrictions there. Teleportation channels could not be used, and even spatial equipment could not be used. For example, intermediate and advanced spatial rings could not be used, and only top-tier spatial rings could be used. However, they had great restrictions and they could only take out small items. A kingdom's border was at least 50,000 kilometers wide or even wider. This was mainly to prevent other kingdoms from invading. If there was no border, others could directly use teleportation channels to come to your city gate. Moreover, with spatial equipment, large amounts of goods could be transported. This put the country in a disadvantageous situation, so they needed border guards. The invading side would definitely be in a disadvantageous situation. Not only would they have to rely on foot, but they would also have to transport their own supplies. As for the defending army, although their spatial equipment could not be used, they could use the teleportation formation at will, and they could mobilize a large number of people to guard the border. As he flew, Zhao Fu did not see anyone or any villages. If he did not rely on teleportation arrays to travel 50,000 kilometers, it would take him at least 2 days to fly. Of course, he had to find the right direction. On the first day, Zhao Fu did not gain anything, so he could only pass like this. He rested for a while at night and then continued on the second day. At that moment, Zhao Fu discovered that there was a group of carriages in front of them that were surrounded by a group of gnolls. Gnolls had the bodies of humans but the heads of gnolls. They were incredibly ferocious and would plunder everything. The people surrounded had Asian faces, but their skin was slightly green. This group of carriages contained some food, wine, and cloth, and they were most likely a small merchant group. Because spatial equipment and teleportation channels could not be used, they could only rely on the most primitive method of transportation. Now, a battle had already started. This merchant group only had 10 or so people, and only 8 or 9 of them could fight. Their cultivation was around stage 0 to 8 or 0 to 9, while there were 30 or so gnolls. As soon as the battle started, the merchant group fell into a disadvantageous situation. 2 of their members had died and 5 were injured, and they were about to be killed by the gnolls. The person in charge of the merchant group was an elderly man with a white beard. His expression was quite unsightly, and his heart sank. He felt that his group was definitely going to die here. These gnolls were not kind people, and even if they handed over their things, they would still kill them. Suddenly, a few rays of sword light descended from the sky, instantly killing 10 or so gnolls. The other gnolls were given a big fright as they saw a black-cloaked figure descend from the sky. Seeing this person descend from the sky, the gnolls immediately ran in all directions because they felt that they were not a match for this person. After all, this person had killed half of their people with just a single attack, so how could they dare to stay here? Seeing the black-cloaked figure descend from the sky, the white-bearded elder immediately led his group and bowed to Zhao Fu as he said gratefully, "Thank you, sir, for saving our lives." Zhao Fu could not understand what they were saying, so he took out a language stone and recorded their language before using it to learn it. Luckily, Zhao Fu had come prepared, or else learning the language would have been a big problem. This language was called the grassy language, and Zhao Fu had automatically learned it. He could understand what they were saying, but he still needed some practice to speak it. As such, he forced out 2 words, "No need." Even though the merchant group below felt that Zhao Fu's words were quite strange, they did not dare to think too much about it. This was a world ruled by strength, and if they accidentally angered him, they would deserve to be killed. "Where are you going?" Zhao Fu once again spoke the grassy language in a rather unpracticed manner. The white-bearded elder respectfully replied, "Sir, we're going to the Kershi kingdom to sell some things." A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. He could go with them, so he said, "I want to go as well. I can protect you all." Hearing this, everyone else was delighted. With such a powerful person protecting them, they would not have to worry about danger. As such, they quickly invited Zhao Fu in and prepared a carriage for Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu entered the carriage and did not say much, as he was afraid that his identity would be revealed. Just like that, Zhao Fu followed the merchant group for 3 or 4 days before arriving at a tall and majestic Great Wall. During those 3 or 4 days, Zhao Fu did not say much, and the merchant group did not ask much either. They would also bring him some food. Almost every kingdom had a great wall, and great walls were necessary for defense. After all, great walls were not just simple defenses, but they were also supported by the kingdom's power, making them incredibly sturdy. The Great Wall was 20 or so meters tall, and there were soldiers with powerful auras standing on it. The gate below was 10 meters wide, and there were many people going in and out, creating a bustling scene. Seeing that these soldiers did not seem to want to check his identity and only wanted to collect some entrance fees, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. Chapter 598. From this, it could be seen how powerful the Kershi kingdom's military was. Most of their soldiers were at Stage 1, and there were many Stage 2 and Stage 3 soldiers as well. However, only a small portion of the Heaven Awakened world's people had reached Stage 1, and Stage 1 soldiers were incredibly rare. If they fought, the human side would definitely lose. After all, if the soldiers defending the Great Wall were so powerful, the kingdom's elite soldiers would be even more powerful. Zhao Fu did not know the exact situation for now, and after entering the Great Wall, Zhao Fu said goodbye to the merchant group and quickly went to the nearest city. The place with the most information was, of course, a bookstore. Zhao Fu bought 10 or so books and found an inn to stay in, and he looked through the books that he had bought. Half a day passed, and Zhao Fu gained some rough information. The races here were called grassy people, and they were from a world that had been devoured in the previous century. The Kershi kingdom had been established for 64 years, and it had 300 or so regions and 900 million people. It had 45 million soldiers, and most of them were Stage 1 soldiers. The Kershi kingdom was only one of the kingdoms in the previous world. In the previous world, there had been more than 40 kingdoms that had survived. They had successfully defended against the invasion from the previous world and the world before that, but they had suffered heavy losses. Many countries and races had either been destroyed or enslaved. The war between the two sides had not yet subsided, and there would more or less be some major battles. The Kershi kingdom's strength was equivalent to a level 3 barony kingdom, and it was above average out of the 40 or so kingdoms. Some of the relationships between the kingdoms were quite friendly, but there were also some conflicts, making things quite complicated. Apart from these books, Zhao Fu also bought a large map. This map mainly showed the 9 countries, and there was a large gray area that was not marked. This was the Legacy Land. Since there were 9 kingdoms near the Legacy Land, they would have to face invasions from at least 9 kingdoms. Each kingdom had 50 million soldiers, which meant that there would be 450 million soldiers. These were all Stage 1 soldiers, and adding on their training and battle experience, their battle prowess was not something that ordinary people could compare to. There were also many Stage 2 and Stage 3 soldiers, and if they invaded, they would be quite terrifying. After all, the human world only had 8 billion people. The invasion of 450 million soldiers was the most optimistic figure, because the land of inheritance was a very large cake. Other countries might also attack, so they would have to face the invasion of more than 40 countries at most. If a kingdom had 50 million soldiers, they would have to face an invasion of 2 billion people. Moreover, the ratio of soldiers to civilians was not 10:1 but 100:6. In other words, there were 6 soldiers for every 100 people, which was the best ratio in the Heaven Awakened world. It could ensure the prosperity of the country, and its vitality would not be damaged. Moreover, it could provide a large amount of resources to the soldiers, allowing them to continuously improve their cultivation. If they really invaded, they could double their forces, which meant that they would have to face an invasion of 4 billion people. Most of these people had Stage 1 cultivation, and with the current strength of the Legacy Land, they would be able to flatten the entire Legacy Land. This was the danger that the Land of Inheritance was facing now, the so-called catastrophe. Furthermore, most countries had a regional system. Just like the Land of Legacy, there were many regions here, and these regions were further divided into several cities and towns, which were distributed one level at a time. Now, Zhao Fu had some basic information about his future enemies, and he had accomplished his goal. Now that he had left the boundary and the Great Wall, he could use his spatial ring. This time, Zhao Fu had brought a lot of money and wanted to see if there were any good things. These kingdoms had been in the Heaven Awakened world for decades, and they definitely had more things than the Land of Inheritance. As such, Zhao Fu wanted to buy a lot of things. Now that Qin had too much money to spend, this was a good place to do so. Zhao Fu casually walked around, and because this was a small city, there were many things that Zhao Fu was not interested in. As such, he decided to go to a bigger city. After teleporting 10 or so times, Zhao Fu arrived at the Kirsch Kingdom's capital city. Zhao Fu did not dare to go there, as there were too many espers and espers there. It was the center of power, so Zhao Fu decided to be cautious and choose the capital city. This capital city was dozens of times bigger than an ordinary system main city, and it could hold at least 10 million people. The city walls were tall and majestic, and it was quite a grand sight. Zhao Fu would be able to buy the best things here. After walking around, Zhao Fu found that there were many things that he could buy, such as equipment, skills, items, and materials. Not only did they have everything that he could think of, but they also had everything that he couldn't think of, and they were all of very high quality. Zhao Fu also saw many shops selling legendary grade and epic grade equipment, but they were quite expensive. A single piece of legendary grade equipment cost hundreds of thousands of gold coins, and a single piece of epic grade equipment cost millions of gold coins. Ordinary people would not be able to afford them. There were also many tamed beasts as pets. Some of these pets were quite cute, some were powerful, and some had special bloodlines. Zhao Fu looked around and found a little beast with the Taotai bloodline, a little turtle with the black tortoise bloodline, and a large python with the feathered serpent bloodline. However, they only had a trace of a bloodline and were not very useful, so it was quite difficult to awaken them. As such, Zhao Fu did not buy them. Apart from pets, there were also slaves. Slaves were quite common in the Heaven Awakened world, and they were all locked up in wooden cages. The men could be used as laborers or raised as slave soldiers. The women could also do light tasks, such as washing clothes and cleaning. However, the beautiful women were mostly slaves, and they only wore thin, almost transparent clothes, making it possible to see any part of their bodies. Of course, they did not have any dignity or power, and as long as they were bought, they would be at their master's disposal, regardless of whether they were dead or alive. This was protected by the law, and it was within their right. None of these slaves were grassy people, as this was the grassy kingdom. How could there be grassy people as slaves? All of the slaves were from other races, and it was possible that other races would also have grassy people as slaves. Both sides would capture other races as slaves, so slaves were quite common. This was how the strong preyed on the weak was. The strong could do whatever they wanted, and this was the fate of the weak. If humans could not resist, this would be the fate of the weak. Chapter 599. Zhao Fu could only look around and feel helpless towards these numb slaves. This was someone else's kingdom, and Zhao Fu could not do anything about it. However, Zhao Fu had long since decided that Qin would not have slavery in the future. As long as they were willing to submit and be loyal to Qin, Zhao Fu would treat them equally and treat them as Qin's subjects. After looking around a few times, Zhao Fu came to a very large and luxuriously decorated shop. This was the largest shop in the capital city, and it was owned by one of the largest financial groups in the Kirsch Kingdom, the Swan Goose Financial Group. It most likely had everything that Zhao Fu was looking for. After Zhao Fu walked in, a beautiful grassy woman walked up and smiled as she said, "Dear guest, what do you need?" Because Zhao Fu had already looked around a few times, he knew what he wanted. Qin did not lack equipment and skills, but legendary grade and epic grade equipment were simply too expensive. It would be better to buy a large number of strategic items to increase his faction's strength. Right now, what Qin lacked the most were talisman stones. After all, Qin had already created talisman equipment, and with how powerful talisman equipment was, it would be one of Qin's trump cards. "Do you have talisman stones here?" After some practice, Zhao Fu could already speak the grassy language. The beautiful grassy woman smiled as she started to introduce the shops to Zhao Fu. Most of the talisman stones here were blue grade, and there were some white grade talisman stones as well. However, they could only be sold in large quantities, which was exactly what Zhao Fu wanted. "I want all of your rune stones. It doesn't matter what grade they are. It doesn't matter if they are white or gold. Take them out," Zhao Fu said with a trace of a smile. The grassy woman's smile froze and she said, "Dear guest, we sell white talisman stones for 1 gold coin each, and there are 600,000 of them. Blue talisman stones are 10 gold coins each, and there are 50,000 of them. Silver talisman stones are 100 gold coins each, and there are 4,000 of them. Gold talisman stones are 1,000 gold coins each, and there are 50 of them. Just the white rune stone alone would cost 600,000 gold coins." This was not something that she could make a decision on. Adding on the other rune stones, she was even more unable to make a decision. "That's right. I want them all," Zhao Fu confirmed. The grassy woman's smile widened, and she hurriedly invited Zhao Fu into a private room before reporting this matter to the manager. A while later, an even more beautiful grassy woman came in and smiled as she said, "Guest, I'm here to see you. I'm the manager here, and my name is Ruashi. I've brought what you wanted." Zhao Fu nodded. With a wave of his hand, a pile of gold coins appeared, just enough to buy all the talisman stones. Rahi hadn't expected the man in front of her to be so straightforward and generous. He didn't even think one. 5 million gold coins was a big deal. After counting the gold coins, Rahi handed the storage ring with the talisman stones to Zhao Fu and put away the gold coins. "Do you still have a tree of life here? If you can't find any living ones, dead ones will do. Also, I need fruits of life," Zhao Fu said. Hearing that Zhao Fu wanted more items, Rahi was delighted and said, "We have 3 living trees of life that cost 1.5 million gold coins each, 8 dead ones that cost 500,000 gold coins each, and 16 fruits of life that cost 100,000 gold coins each. After all, the tree of life had to be cut down, so the original tree of life could be kept. Zhao Fu thought for a moment before saying, "I want 5 dead trees of life and 1 fruit of life." Rahi first left, and when she came back, she spent another 2.6 million gold coins. Zhao Fu didn't feel any heartache, because he could now construct water of life and mass-produce talisman equipment. This was especially so since he could buy high-grade talisman equipment, so Zhao Fu wasn't in a rush. Outside the Legacy Land, he could find anything he wanted. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had money. "Guest, do you have any other requests?" Rahi was quite happy, but she maintained her smile and asked gently and politely to Zhao Fu. "That's all." Zhao Fu felt quite satisfied and packed his things, and he prepared to leave. At that moment, Rahi took out a violet card with a goose engraved on it and handed it to Zhao Fu as she said, "Esteemed guest, this is the Swan Goose Financial Group's VIP card. Esteemed guest, this is the VIP card of our Swan Goose Financial Group. From now on, you can enjoy a 20% discount on all purchases from our financial group." Zhao Fu glanced at it before taking it and leaving. After Zhao Fu left, the woman who had taken care of Zhao Fu walked into the room and said happily, "Miss, I'm very happy. He must be a major figure." Rahi smiled and nodded. Zhao Fu had spent 4 million gold coins, which was equivalent to 10,000 copper coins. 4 million gold coins was equivalent to 40 billion copper coins, which was equivalent to the entire region's wealth. For him to be able to take out so much gold coins so easily, his identity was definitely not ordinary. Within the Kershi kingdom, there were less than 20 factions that could be so extravagant. Even though Zhao Fu was wearing a black cloak, Rahi could sense a faint noble aura from Zhao Fu, and she guessed that Zhao Fu was a prince of some kingdom. They would never have guessed that Zhao Fu came from the Legacy Land. With the Heaven Domain boundaries protection, no one could enter or leave the Legacy Land. If Zhao Fu had not prepared so many things, he definitely would not have been able to leave. After leaving the shop, Zhao Fu went to other places and bought some talisman stones. They were mostly white and blue-grade talisman stones, and there were very few advanced-grade talisman stones. After buying the talisman stones and the Tree of Life, Zhao Fu thought about it and decided that there was nothing else for him to do. As such, he left the Kershi kingdom and flew for a few days before returning to the teleportation channel that he had set up. It had been around a week since Zhao Fu had left, and by the time Zhao Fu returned, Red Plum Plains had already been cleared out. Only after Zhao Fu entered the Legacy Land did he receive a system announcement. System announcement. Your faction has unified Red Plum Plains, and a massive amount of fate has flowed into Qin City. System announcement. Your faction has unified 2 regions. Please set up the main and secondary regions. System announcement. Only by establishing a great city in that region can it fuse with the region heart. Now that Zhao Fu had returned safely, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Zhao Fu did not tell them what had happened in the outside world because he wanted to set up the main and secondary regions first. He needed to properly discuss the outside matters. Since they needed a great city to fuse with the region heart, Zhao Fu could only relocate a system main city there. Following this, a 3-colored light gathered in the sky, forming an orb of light that fused into the city heart. Of course, Zhao Fu set up the main region in Xianyang City. After setting up the main region, the 2 regions' powers fused together. The restrictions from before were even more powerful and could cover a greater distance, and the other region's stats also slightly increased. Chapter 600. Now that the 2 regions had fused, Zhao Fu could choose whether or not the Void Zone existed. If Zhao Fu chose not to, it would be more convenient for him to travel between the 2 regions in the future. After clearing out Yuanzhou, Zhao Fu's next target was Dongqing. There were not many trees there, and it was next to Yuanzhou and Xianyang. The three regions could be connected, and Zhao Fu left the cleaning to Qin's army. After clearing out Yuanzhou, Qin's strength had once again greatly increased. His population had reached 9.6 million, and his soldiers had increased to 1.8 million. This was because Qin would have to face many battles in the future, and he would be in a difficult situation. As such, he could not use a ratio of 100:6 like the outside world. If things stabilized and Qin successfully survived the crisis, Zhao Fu would not greatly increase his forces. Now there were 19 great cities, 4 cities, 18 towns, and 1,869 villages. After dealing with these matters, Zhao Fu gathered all of the generals in the meeting hall and told them about the situation outside the land of legacy. Everyone's expressions were serious, and they understood the dangers in the future. This was only the strength of the previous world, and if other worlds joined in, no matter what the legacy land did or how hard it worked, it could still be destroyed. This was not an ordinary crisis. The future was filled with unknowns, and Qin only had one goal, which was to continuously become stronger. Only by becoming strong enough would he be able to resist all dangers. After some discussion, Qin started to make preparations for the future. After the meeting, Zhao Fu went to an empty area and ordered people to dig a hole. Zhao Fu wanted to start building a fountain of life. Due to the limited conditions, Zhao Fu could only build a low-grade fountain of life. The soldiers followed Zhao Fu's instructions and dug a hole that was 30 meters wide and 250 meters deep. They then started to build the walls of the well. The walls were made of wood that was at least 10 years old. This was not difficult, as there were many 10-year-old trees. The 5 dead trees of life were also cut into pieces and made into the walls of the well. However, they would only be used every 50 meters. After doing all this, Zhao Fu collected the blood of 100,000 elves according to Zhao Fu's instructions. That was to let 100,000 elves bleed a little. This was also very simple. Qin now had more than 400,000 elves, so it was very easy to do. Next, Zhao Fu used the 100,000 elves' blood to draw runes on the walls of the well. After he finished, Zhao Fu took out a green fruit. This green fruit was as big as a fist, and it was very round and smooth. It gave off a faint green light and a sweet fragrance. It was a fruit of life. Regardless of whether it was the tree of life or the fruit of life, they all had different grades. The older they were, the higher their grades would be, and the higher the quality of the water of life they would produce. However, due to the limited conditions, Zhao Fu could only use these. He dug a shallow hole next to the well and placed the fruit of life into it. Then, he covered it with soil, and the entire well started to change, giving off a faint green light. The blood-red runes that had been written on the walls of the well seemed to have come to life and fused into the walls of the well. The walls of the well, which were made of wood, seemed to have a life of their own as they started to wriggle and grow. The pieces of wood completely connected without a single crack, and finally, the walls of the well seemed to be made of a complete tree trunk. The water of life is done. A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he threw the thousands of corpses that he had collected into the spring of life. The well was almost filled to the brim, and it became a corpse well, looking quite terrifying and horrifying. However, soon clear spring water started to seep out of the well, and the corpses started to wither as if they had lost all of their water, turning into dried corpses. This was a stark contrast to the clear spring water that was flowing out of the well. One was filled with a terrifying deathly aura, while the other was filled with vitality. This method seemed quite evil, but Zhao Fu had long since become immune to it. Beside the well, an emerald green sprout shyly drilled out of the soil and grew rapidly. Not long after, it became a small sapling that was 1 meter tall. Zhao Fu looked at the sapling before turning his gaze to the clear spring water. He took out a small bottle and took out some of the spring water, and he looked at its stats. Crude water of life. a crude type of water of life that contains life energy. After drinking it, it can quickly heal injuries and recover one's strength. After looking at its stats, Zhao Fu raised the small bottle and poured some of the water of life into his mouth. Zhao Fu was not thinking about those corpses, or else he would feel as if he was drinking corpse water. The water of life entered Zhao Fu's body and turned into a ball of green energy that spread out, quickly healing his body's injuries. Its effects were quite powerful, and it was not any weaker than a stage 4 healing pill. A smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. Even in the Kershi kingdom, very few people had stage 4 healing pills. Ordinary soldiers still used stage 2 healing pills, and the Kershi kingdom was quite powerful, so they used stage 2 healing pills. It had to be known that the higher the grade of the medicinal pill, the better its effects, and the more expensive the ingredients would be. Before, Qin had only used low-grade healing pills. Even though they were the best healing pills that Qin could obtain with his current strength, they could not even compare to 10% of the water of life. The water of life was now a big advantage for Qin. Zhao Fu did not forget about his plan to nurture a large number of divine tree warriors. He cut off 100 branches from the first tree of life that he had planted. These branches were quite small and did not cause much damage to the lush tree of life. This method's survival rate was quite low, and it was not as good as the fruit of life. However, each fruit of life cost 100,000 gold coins, and if Zhao Fu planted 100 of them, he would have to spend 10 million gold coins. No matter how much money Zhao Fu had, he could not afford to spend it like this. As such, he decided to use the second method, which was to cut off the branches. Now that he had the water of life, he would most likely be able to nurture a batch of trees of life. The trees of life required a lot of space, so Zhao Fu planted a branch every 1,000 meters and watered it with water of life before waiting. It would take a few days for the effects to appear, so he had to water it with water of life every day. As long as he had a large number of trees of life, Qin would be able to nurture an army of divine tree warriors. This made Zhao Fu feel quite excited, as divine tree warriors were B-grade soldiers. The matter of the water of life concluded here, and it was time to kill a god killer. This time, the beast god called Dokol was quite weak, and it would not be difficult for Qin to kill its clone. Zhao Fu had already thought of a way to use its divinity, which was to give it to the Black Forest Horse Denver. Now that the Black Forest Horse Den had used the Horse Jade Soul twice, it had reached stage 0 to 6 or 0 to 7. Chapter 601. Most of the war horses in the Grassy Kingdom were called Azure Qilin horses. These horses were as big as ordinary horses, but they had azure scales and were equivalent to Stage 1 horses. In the Heaven Awaken world, Stage 1 warhorses were the lowest grade warhorses, as all of the soldiers were at least Stage 1. Only by reaching Stage 1 could one truly enter the Heaven Awaken world. Otherwise, one would not even have the right to enter the Heaven Awaken world. Now, of course, it was time to kill a god. Ordinary godly spirits required sacrifices to descend, and this was the same for the beast god. Because of the experience of killing a demon god, they had prepared everything. This time, the ordinary soldiers did not participate, and it was mainly the 23 city lords who acted. Just like last time, Zhao Fu prepared tens of thousands of livestock and a few people who were unwilling to surrender, and they were tied to wooden pillars. The priest loudly chanted an incantation on the altar, causing a massive formless energy to spread out from the altar. The people and beasts tied to the wooden pillars felt a chill and fear, and they started to struggle and cry out. However, no matter how much they screamed or struggled, it was useless, and their bodies quickly withered as they screamed. The scene was quite terrifying, and those screams could cause anyone's hairs to stand on end. Streams of blood-red aura gathered in the sky, forming a massive pressure. The priest shouted out in a respectful and pious voice, "Great beast god Dokol, your most devout follower, Sikar, offers a sacrifice to all souls and requests your descent. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the blood-red chi in the sky continuously roiled and formed a massive vortex. A massive, barbaric, and powerful aura suddenly descended, covering the entire underground region, and the atmosphere became incredibly oppressive. The countless people and beasts tied up howled and died. Whether it was their souls or blood-red chi, they were all absorbed by the vortex. A horse giving off a white divine light appeared at the center of the vortex. It was covered in snow-white fur and looked incredibly elegant as it said arrogantly, "My lowly follower, what have you summoned me for?" Zhao Fu looked at Dokol and did not have much of a reaction. He was quite curious as to whether all godly spirits were so arrogant. No one replied to him. After the priest was successfully summoned, he quickly left. As a priest of Dokol, he was under Dokol's control, and Zhao Fu didn't have anything to change his profession, so he let him leave. The scene was a little awkward, and after Dokol finished speaking, the whole place fell silent. Dokol looked at the 20 people below him, and didn't feel like they were his believers. He had a bad feeling, but as a god, how could he be scared off like this? Facing these 20 or so people, Dokol did not put them in his eyes at all. This was the confidence of a god. How could he be afraid of weak humans? Moreover, most of these people were only at the third order. You'd best kneel on the ground and worship me and beg me to spare you, or else I'll make you taste the wrath of a god. Dokol was quite angry and gave off a powerful aura. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and gave the order to attack, and the city lords unleashed their city lord seals. Zhao Fu's king's crown was now gold grade, and it was incredibly sensitive to godly spirit auras and king's auras. Sensing Dokol above him, it became quite excited and continuously trembled. Dokol's expression fell, for it had never thought that these people would all be city lords. By now, it was sure that this was a trap, and facing 20 or so city lords, Dokol felt that it was not a match for them. However, it would only lose a clone, so Dokol didn't want to run. It wanted to make this person suffer its wrath. Now, even if it wanted to run, it would not be able to because there were many restrictions in the underground region, including the Golden Dragon's absolute restriction. This was to prevent the demon god from descending again, and it would also weaken Dokol. The battle quickly erupted, and the two sides started to fight. Terrifying shockwaves blasted out like wild gales, causing countless people's hearts to tremble. However, the battle was still in Qin's favor. In actuality, Dokol wasn't very strong, and it was even weaker than the demon god from before. It was definitely a low-grade god, and because of the absolute restriction, it was unable to use its true body's power, so it was suppressed by the city lords. Roar! Dokol furiously roared and exploded out with a large amount of white light as it furiously counterattacked. Being suppressed by this group of people made it feel incredibly humiliated, and it wanted to kill everyone present. Clang, 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 countless chains shot out from the air, binding up Dor, who was about to explode out. Zhao Fu had acted, but his power was limited and he could not use his nation armament, so the others also joined in. Everyone pulled on a chain and sent all of their power into it, causing the chains to gain even more power and give off all sorts of lights as they tightly bound Dokol. Following this, everyone pulled Dokol towards the heaven and earth refining formation. Dokol resisted in anger and humiliation. He roared loudly, wanting to kill everyone present. He wanted everyone present to die a horrible death. But in the end, he was still dragged onto the heaven and earth refining formation. Boom! The thousands of crystals on the heaven and earth refining formation turned into dust, and a formless energy grabbed onto Dokol's body. Dokol felt a sense of danger and desperately resisted. The other city lords gritted their teeth and vigorously pulled on the chains, causing them to become taut and not allowing Dokol to break free. Dokol's body was covered by that formless energy, and his flesh started to peel off, causing him to howl in pain. Zhao Fu looked at the 1,000 energy stones and felt that it was not enough. Before, he had refined a dead god, and now that he was refining a living one, it was not enough, so Zhao Fu added another 1,000 energy stones. These crystals once again turned into dust, and another massive wave of energy grabbed onto Dokol. This wave of energy caused Dokol to give a final howl before its body collapsed and turned into countless motes of light that floated down. A white tongue of flame that was as big as a fingernail appeared. This was Dokol's divinity. It was much smaller than the demon's divinity from before, but Zhao Fu was quite satisfied with it. This god-killing process had been successfully concluded, and a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he fused this divinity with the Black Forest horse Denver. Because Dokol was a horse, it was quite suitable for a horse Denver. After fusing, the Black Forest horse's name became Black God Horse, and its strength reached stage 1 to 5, making it more powerful than ordinary stage 1 warhorses. After successfully constructing the Fountain of Life and killing a god, Qin was filled with joy, but the others were not. Chapter 602. They madly attacked, putting China at a great disadvantage. The northern, southern, and eastern sides were all under immense pressure, and the western side had completely collapsed because the Indian side had gathered another 30 million players to attack China. The other smaller countries also started to attack, and they no longer chose to defend. This caused China to feel a sense of crisis, and it seemed that it was impossible to defend against the invasion. After all, China had to face 21 countries. Within an elegant room in the ancient clan, a peerlessly beautiful woman knelt on the ground. She was tall and slim, and her skin was snow-white. She had a pair of large breasts, and every part of her body was perfect. She gave off the aura of a loving mother. She was Nu Lu, Nuwa's descendant, and she was the #1 beauty on the ancient beauty rankings. "Elder, please agree to my request," Nu Lu said resolutely as she knelt on the ground. An elderly woman sighed and said, "Do you really have to do this? You've been with Big Brother Xian Yuan since you were young, and you've always said that you wanted to marry him. In our eyes, you're already a couple, so do you really want to end everything and marry someone else?" Nu Lu nodded earnestly, having already made her decision. The elderly woman couldn't help but try to persuade her, saying, "You need to understand that he's not a good person. Not only is he cruel, but he's also incredibly violent and lustful. He already has many women, and he'll have even more in the future. Do you know that you're jumping into a pit of fire?" Nu Lu resolutely nodded and said, "Elder, I've already made preparations. Not only will we be able to stop the shift in fate this time, but I'll also be able to guide him in the future. This will save countless people's lives. As the king with the most potential in the world, he won't just be able to influence China's situation in the future, but he'll also be able to influence the world's situation. I believe that everything I've done will be worth it." Seeing that she couldn't persuade her, the elderly woman could only agree. The Ying family's Zhao Fu was forced to wake up, and he felt quite displeased as he asked, "What's going on?" The bodyguard said a few words, and Zhao Fu nodded and went to the living room. By now, Qiu Fengzi and a woman were already waiting for him. When Zhao Fu saw this woman, he couldn't help but feel quite surprised. As expected from the #1 beauty on the ancient beauty rankings, she was incredibly beautiful, and she was even prettier than Wu Qingyang. "What is it?" Zhao Fu asked. Nu Lu gave a slight smile and did not hide anything as she said, "I'm going to marry your legatee and end this shift in fate. You most likely need Phoenix Qi, right? With the Phoenix Qi in my body, your Qin clan can't refuse me." Zhao Fu frowned. The Phoenix Qi might have been leaked, because all the women Qin captured had Phoenix Qi, so it was easy for others to guess. Also, wasn't this woman a little too confident? Did she really think that she could end everything with her Phoenix Qi? First of all, the other Phoenix Qi had to be able to heal all the injuries on his body. Qin's luck had recovered a lot now. Unifying the region and killing the gods had given him a huge amount of luck. Zhao Fu knew how much phoenix qi was needed to heal his injuries, so he felt that Nu Lu's words were a bit too confident. As such, Zhao Fu wanted to directly refuse and tell her to go back. Qiu Fengzi could tell what Zhao Fu was thinking, so he immediately walked over to Zhao Fu and said a few words to him. Zhao Fu looked quite shocked. He had never thought that Nu Lu would have so much phoenix qi. It was 100 times more than Gao Li's. Many dynasty legatees had wooed her before. As Nu Hua's descendant, Nu Lu had the most phoenix qi in China. If he could obtain her phoenix qi, perhaps Zhao Fu's injuries would be completely healed. However, Zhao Fu still said, "I'm sorry. I refuse." Qiu Fengzi and Nu Lu felt quite surprised, but Zhao Fu understood the current situation. He felt that it was too early to end the shift in fate, as this was a good opportunity to weaken both sides. At the very least, it would be best to end it when both sides had suffered heavy losses. Zhao Fu had said before that he would not purposely slow down the shift in fate, nor would he speed it up. However, Nu Lu had ended the shift in fate too quickly. If the shift in fate ended, the various countries would once again focus on Qin, and they would once again ally together to deal with Qin. Even though Qin was no longer afraid of them, he would still feel quite annoyed. As such, Zhao Fu refused. Nu Lu thought about it and lightly laughed as she said, "Don't worry. The various dynasty legatees are willing to reconcile with Qin and won't do anything to harm Qin for 3 years. However, Qin can't do anything to harm them, and they won't interfere with the northern side of the Midland continent." Right now, Qin was the pillar of China's fate. If he fell, everyone else would be heavily injured or even killed. This made Qin someone who couldn't be harmed, so they decided to compromise. This made Zhao Fu feel quite tempted. After all, Qin's true threat was outside and not them, so he did not have the time to waste on them. Seeing this, Nu Lu smiled and said, "I'm sure you understand that Qin is now China's pillar of support. If you fall, everyone else will be affected. Similarly, if China falls, China's fate will be greatly reduced, and Qin will suffer a fate backlash. In the end, Qin will be the one to suffer the greatest losses." Zhao Fu sighed. He had been worried about this for a long time, and the other factions were also aware of this problem. In the end, Zhao Fu could only helplessly agree, and Nu Lu gave a brilliant smile. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to the heaven-awakened world and headed to the border with Vietnam. Nu Lu had already gone there with a top-tier border medallion. After meeting with Nu Lu, Zhao Fu gave her a reality fruit. Now, Zhao Fu was quite worried about this woman, so he had her enter the heaven-awakened world and had her in his hands. Nu Lu took the reality fruit and looked at it. She understood that this was something that Qin could use to bring people from the real world into the heaven-awakened world. She had long since made her decision, so she did not hesitate to consume it and enter the heaven-awakened world. Zhao Fu looked at this woman in surprise. Even now, he could not understand why she would willingly sacrifice herself. Could it really be to save the world? Zhao Fu would not be able to do such a thing, but if it was Qin, Zhao Fu would be willing to give up everything, including his life. Zhao Fu did not know how long Qin's path was, and he knew that he would die one day. However, in the future, someone would take over his position and continue to lead Qin. "Let's go," Zhao Fu said. Now that he had her in his hands, Zhao Fu felt quite at ease. Nu Lu followed behind Zhao Fu, and after personally seeing how powerful and prosperous Qin was, she felt quite shocked. After coming to the meeting hall, Nu Lu looked at the people with extraordinary bearings and understood what was going on. At the same time, she felt quite nervous because she was about to personally see the legendary legatee Qin. After following Zhao Fu into the meeting hall, Nu Lu stopped because she found that there was no one there. Since legatee Qin had not come yet, she wanted to wait. However, she suddenly saw Zhao Fu walk up and sit on a chair, and everyone respectfully bowed and called out, "Your Majesty." Chapter 603. Zhao Fu took the imperial decree from Xianru and looked at Nu Lu as he lightly laughed and asked, "What? Are you surprised?" Nu Lu came back to her senses and couldn't help but laugh as she said, "No one would have thought that you were Prince Qin, and the Ying family would never have thought that Prince Qin, who they were searching for, was in the Ying family this entire time. You've tricked everyone in the world." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "That was just a temporary measure. Prince Qin's cloak of mystery is what makes people respect him." Hearing this, Nu Lu nodded. She knew a bit about what had happened to Zhao Fu before. Zhao Fu took out the imperial ruler's seal and pressed it against the imperial decree. The imperial decree immediately gave off waves of golden light and became extraordinary, and it was filled with the aura of nobility and power. Woo! Prince Qin has conferred Nu Lu the title of imperial concubine, and Qin's kingdom fate approves of it. Zhao Fu waved his hand, and the imperial decree turned into a golden light that entered Nu Lu's body. Suddenly, golden phoenix chi flooded out, instantly covering the meeting hall. Everyone present was shocked to see Nu Lu's phoenix chi. Scree! A piercing phoenix cry sounded out as the Emperor Phoenix statue, which had been a crystal, once again turned into a golden phoenix that flew in the sky. Nu Lu's phoenix chi also flowed into the sky. Boom! After absorbing countless traces of phoenix chi, the golden phoenix exploded out with a massive aura and gave off a brilliant golden light, dyeing the entire world golden. The golden phoenix's body suddenly became 30 or so meters long, many times larger than before. A small golden phoenix flew into the meeting hall and entered Zhao Fu's body. Countless traces of golden light passed through Zhao Fu's body, and the backlash from Zhao Fu's fate was instantly healed. Boom! An explosion sounded out in all directions, and everyone in the Midland continent heard this massive explosion. They looked up and saw that the weather had changed. System announcement: Qin's fate has recovered, and Prince Qin's injuries have been healed. The shift in fate has ended. Notification: the great shift of fate has ended, and all invaders' statuses have been cancelled. Killing Chinese players will not give you any bonuses, and occupying Chinese territory will not give you any additional fate. Notification: congratulations to China for successfully defending against the invasion. Everyone who successfully defended against the invasion will receive 100 war points. Notification: right now, China should be getting rid of the invaders. Killing the invaders will give you 4 times the chaos points. System announcements sounded out in countless people's minds, and the 21 invaders' auras instantly weakened, while the Chinese people's auras became stronger. Many ordinary people from various countries planned to retreat, as they were now considered invaders. If they continued to stay here, they would be attacked by China. In this world where benefits were paramount, the ordinary people of the various countries were originally there for the bountiful rewards. Then, under the push of various aristocratic families and national forces, they began to invade. Now that there were no benefits, who would foolishly continue to invade? In this world, benefits ruled, and there was a limit to patriotism. For example, who would hand over all of their assets? Perhaps there were very few people who would do so, but could the number of people who didn't hand over be proportional to the number of people who didn't? Also, why did people resist when there was tyranny? Wasn't it because their benefits were being harmed? Now, the players' equipment, skills, and cultivation were worth hundreds of thousands of chaos points, and who would throw those hundreds of thousands of chaos points into the fire? Before, China had been so cowardly because they hadn't been prepared and couldn't defeat them, and they didn't want to lose any benefits. Before, when they had attacked Qin, they had been so enthusiastic because the various dynasty legatees and factions had given them massive reward. Otherwise, who would do something that had no benefits? Some people might say that they weren't afraid of anything and wouldn't retreat in the face of any enemy. If they didn't have anything, of course they would be like that. However, there were things worth hundreds of thousands of chaos points, and if they died, everything would be gone. In fact, those things could even change one's fate, so would one continue to advance? If one could do it, how would one know that others could? No matter who it was, whether it was China or any other country, people prioritized their own benefit. If their benefits weren't being harmed, they wouldn't resist. Now that China had massive rewards, their morale continued to rise. Countless people came to the borders through border medallions, while the invading ordinary people only wanted to retreat. One reason was that there were no more rewards, and the other was that they had already obtained benefits, so they wanted to leave in a hurry. China's counterattack started. Facing Russia in the south of the Midland continent, China gathered 20 million people and defeated Russia in one fell swoop. The proud and elegant Oleg's expression became quite unsightly when he saw his army collapse, and he could only retreat. Facing Mongolia's terrifying cavalry, China set up countless heavy crossbows and armor-piercing arrows, as well as special defensive vehicles. They no longer defended and relied on the rain of arrows and the defensive vehicles that could move at any time to successfully defeat the Mongolian army. The Chinese side also gathered 8 million or so people and launched a powerful counterattack, successfully repelling the Kazakh. In the east of the Midland continent, the countries that resisted the most were South Korea and Japan. They were the two most arrogant and infuriating countries, and China had long since defeated the other countries. Facing the stubborn resistance of these two countries, China fought to the death in the Lufeng region and the Changyang region, and China defeated them in the end. The number of troops in this war was about the same. China had won, mainly because of the hearts of the people. The ordinary people of the other two countries had long lost the will to fight, but the Chinese people were united. All of them charged forward to kill their enemies. Maybe it was because of the high rewards. Many Japanese and South Korean people were captured by the Chinese side, and they knelt on the ground and continuously cried, "China is the strongest, we admit defeat. Please let us go. I'm sorry. It was all our fault. I'll kowtow to you and apologize. Please let us go. Sir, please let us go. I'm begging you to let me off this once. The things I have on me are all of my assets, so please let me off this once. Your Huaxia is the most outstanding race, please spare our lowly race." In the face of wealth, many people gave in and wanted to survive and keep their lives and money. China humiliated the other side just like when they had invaded, and the positions were completely reversed. The north of the Midland continent was quite peaceful because there weren't many people there. Because the other countries were wary of Qin, their invasion wasn't very intense. After a system announcement sounded out, they silently retreated from the conquered regions and returned to their own territories. There weren't many battles between them and China. Chapter 604. Apart from India in the west, most of the invasions had come to an end. The regions that China had lost were all conquered back, and some countries started to invade other countries. However, most people stopped. After all, if they invaded other countries, they would not receive high reward. After all, the system announcement stated that they had to expel the invaders, which was why they would receive 4 times the rewards. If they invaded other countries to kill people, they would not receive any rewards and would only receive war points. China's crisis had been resolved, and Qin and the various dynasty legatees had temporarily reconciled. China welcomed a short period of peace. Many people were quite happy about this, such as the 100 schools of thought and the ancient clans. Now that they were no longer fighting, China's situation had stabilized. This was a time for development, and if China continued to be embroiled in civil war, it would continue to weaken. In fact, there might even be invasions. They hoped that China would have peace. Within a simple and unadorned room in the ancient clans, a handsome young man with an extraordinary demeanor muttered in disbelief, "This definitely can't be true. Lu wouldn't marry someone else willingly. We made a deal back then." This young man was Xianyuan Xiu, the Xianyuan family's legatee, and he was the big brother Xianyuan that Nu Lu had mentioned. Thinking about how he had grown up with Nu Lu, as well as those sweet and innocent promises, Xianyuan Xiu felt as if his heart was being torn apart. Tears flowed out of his eyes as he continuously shook his head, unable to believe this was true. The elderly woman sighed and said, "Lil Xiu, Nu Lu made her own decision. Back then, I tried to persuade her against it, but now that the transfer of fate has stopped, it means that she has married Qin's legatee and has become someone else's woman. She is most likely in Qin's palace, and it is impossible for the two of you to meet again. She left you a letter, telling you to forget about her and start anew." After saying this, the elderly woman handed Xianyuan Xiu a letter before leaving with a worried look on her face. Xianyuan Xiu hurriedly opened the letter and read its content. Looking at Nu Lu's explanation, he continuously cried and collapsed to the ground as he howled in pain. China's #1 beauty had married into Qin, and many people felt that it was a pity. It could be said that China's current peace had been brought by her alone. Many scholars wrote poems praising Nu Lu's selfless act of saving the world. In just an instant, Nu Lu's popularity reached a terrifying height. It was a pity that they would not be able to see Nu Lu again in the future, because everyone knew whose woman she belonged to. If Zhao Fu was a good person and treated Nu Lu well, they would not feel any pity, and would even give their blessings. However, Zhao Fu was not only cruel but also incredibly perverted. Nu Lu's life would be ruined if she married such a person. However, they could not change this, nor did they have the ability to. With how terrifying Qin was, they could only sigh and mourn for Nu Lu. Back at Qin City, it was already a few days later. After Nu Lu had been conferred the title of concubine, she had thought that Zhao Fu would hold a large banquet and celebrate before formally marrying her. However, she had never thought that after conferring the title of concubine, Zhao Fu would not do anything and only tell others to take good care of her. Nu Lu felt quite disappointed. It seemed that her position in Zhao Fu's heart was just so, and there was nothing special about her. However, Nu Lu did not choose to leave, and she chose to stay in the meeting hall. This was the center of Qin City's power, and all important decisions were made here. Nu Lu's other goal was to change Qin City and be of some use in massacres. After all, she would be able to directly talk to Qin City's legatee here. Zhao Fu did not have her leave, as even if she heard anything, she would not be able to spread it. Now that China had entered a period of peace, Qin City focused on developing and clearing out the remaining 3 regions. Now that Qin City had 1.8 million soldiers, their clearing speed was much faster than before. They had already cleared out 1/5 of East Green. As for Mountain Willow Town, Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to relocate it back to Qin City. Lu Subai and the others did not have any objections, as it would be easier for them to integrate into Qin City. As for crushed steel iron, it was very useful for sneak attack. Zhao Fu established a town near this mine, and it would be very useful in the future. Everything else was the same as before. Zhao Fu had already started mass-producing talisman equipment, and he could make around 700,000 or so of them. These were just ordinary talisman equipment, and he still needed to research and improve the advanced talisman equipment. Zhao Fu had bought 50 gold-grade talisman stones, and he wanted to use gold-grade materials to make advanced talisman equipment. White-grade talisman stones and blue-grade materials could already rival silver-grade weapons. If gold-grade talisman stones and gold-grade materials were used, just how powerful would the advanced talisman equipment be? Hearing Qin City's various decisions, Nu Lu felt incredibly shocked. She had never thought that Qin City's strength would be so terrifying. The meeting concluded. The other generals started to carry out Zhao Fu's orders, while Zhao Fu continued to stay in the hall and read through the books he had bought from the bookstore. Before, Zhao Fu had only read through a few of the books, and he only had a basic understanding of the grassy people. The 10 or so books were all very thick, and Zhao Fu did not finish reading them so quickly. The grassy people had a very long history, and they were divided into many different races. In actuality, most worlds were similar to Earth. They first evolved from low-grade creatures to high-grade creatures, and they unified planet. Their societies and countries were similar to Earth. Even though they were all called humans, they had different countries, different races, different skins, and different histories. The grassy people were definitely not weak, and they had nation armaments and clan armament. In the future, they would be the humans' greatest enemies, and Zhao Fu wanted to understand more about them. If they fought with them in the future, it would be very useful. Soon, it was night, and Zhao Fu's eyes felt a bit sore after reading for an entire day. Just as he was about to rub them, a figure walked over and gently rubbed his temples. "Lord husband, do you feel better?" Nu Lu smiled as she said softly. Zhao Fu felt quite startled before lightly laughing. Now that he had made her a concubine, she could indeed call him Lord husband. However, Nu Lu gave off a familiar feeling and did not feel unfamiliar at all. Even though they had only known each other for a short period of time, they felt as if they had known each other for a long time. She seemed to be older than Zhao Fu by a year, but she gave off a very mature aura, which was similar to that of a mother's. Nu Lu did not think too much, as she had already made her decision. Since she had become Zhao Fu's woman, she wanted to be a good wife to Zhao Fu. Chapter 605. Hearing Nu Lu's words, Zhao Fu nodded and asked, "Did you never leave?" Nu Lu shook her head and smiled as she said, "Lord husband, you've been reading for an entire day. It's night time now, and I just left. I made some dishes, but I don't know if they suit your taste." Zhao Fu looked to the side and saw that there was already food on the table. Nu Lu was treating him so well, and Zhao Fu felt quite uncomfortable, so he looked up at her. Facing Zhao Fu's gaze, Nu Lu's face became slightly red as she asked, "What is it, Lord husband?" Zhao Fu could not help but ask, "Why are you treating me so well?" "There's no need for you to do so, right? I know that I don't have enough charm for you to like me so easily. You entered Qin City to end the shift in fate, right?" Nu Lu lightly laughed as she replied, "So it's because of that. You're my man now, and we're going to live together for the rest of our lives, so of course I have to treat you well." Zhao Fu didn't know how to reply to her, and he had never thought about this for his entire life. He suddenly fell silent. "Lord husband, the food is getting cold," Nu Lu said with a trace of a smile, breaking Zhao Fu's silence. Zhao Fu came back to his senses and nodded. He put down the book and came to the table. He picked up his bowl and chopsticks and tasted the food, and he found that it was quite good. Nu Lu looked at the book that Zhao Fu had placed beside him, and she found that it was written in a special language. It was not an Outlander language, nor was it written in any other language. "Lord husband, what book is this?" Nu Lu could not help but ask out of curiosity. Zhao Fu did not hide anything and told her what had happened outside. Nu Lu's face instantly became pale. She had never thought that there would be such great danger in the future. "Can't Lord husband spread this news? That way, all of humanity will be able to make preparations," Nu Lu said worriedly as she sat next to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked at her and replied, "That won't do. If the entire world finds out and the heaven domain boundary closes early, all of humanity, including Qin City, will perish. The Heaven Awakened world nurtures experts, and only experts can survive. In the future, humans won't just have to face the grassy people but the true Heaven Awakened world." After hearing Zhao Fu's explanation, Nu Lu understood and felt quite glad that she had been able to enter Great Qin, or else she would not have known about these things. She asked, "Fu and Zhao Fu, Lu Zhao Fu." Lu understood and felt that Qin was to Qin's Fu was. At Nu Lu, Qin, Zhao, Zhao Fu, Lu Li and Fu, and Lu Zhao. Zhao Fu and Fu felt, not, and asked and asked, and was Li Zhaofu and asked and asked and asked and asked and he Lu Fu and Fu, and said. Nu Lu came back to her senses and smiled as she picked up her bowl and chopsticks. She did not say anything else and only asked if the food suited Zhao Fu's taste and what he liked to eat. After the two of them ate, Zhao Fu continued to read while Nu Lu stayed by Zhao Fu's side. Sometimes she would brew some tea and bring it to Zhao Fu while she did some embroidery. The next day Zhao Fu woke up. Late last night, Zhao Fu had ordered people to bring Nu Lu back to her room. Suddenly having someone who seemed like family made Zhao Fu's closed-off heart feel quite touched, and he felt quite uncomfortable. On that day, Zhao Fu received news that the advanced talisman equipment had been successfully made. Zhao Fu grinned and looked forward to it. Nu Lu did not come. She now understood Zhao Fu's personality and understood that Zhao Fu had not fully accepted her. This would take time, so Nu Lu did not bother Zhao Fu in case Zhao Fu became annoyed. However, her relationship with Zhao Fu had already surpassed the relationship between Zhao Fu and other women, so Nu Lu was quite satisfied. Zhao Fu went to Shi Qianhua's room and received a sword that he handed over. This was a piece of equipment made from gold materials and gold talisman stones. This sword was different from ordinary talisman equipment. It was covered with runes, and the blade was black. It was 1 meter long, and there was a golden rune that gave off a faint golden light at the point where the blade and hilt connected. The entire sword gave off a powerful and mysterious feeling. Xing. Zhao Fu sent in his cultivation power, and the sword devoured Zhao Fu's power before giving off a clear sword hum. The runes on the sword lit up, and a sharp sword wind spread out. Shi Qianhua, who was standing by the side, felt that the sword qi was about to cut open his skin, and he quickly retreated a few steps. This sword's power was quite shocking, and Zhao Fu casually swung out, causing a sword light to flash out and leave a 10 or so meter long gash on the ground. This sword's power could rival a trash epic-grade weapon, but it required a lot of cultivation power, and it required one to have at least stage 3 cultivation to use it. However, this was still quite shocking. Even trash epic-grade equipment was still epic-grade equipment, and the power it contained surpassed legendary-grade equipment. However, this sword only gave Zhao Fu the stats of a gold piece of equipment, and it did not have as much power as an epic-grade weapon. Zhao Fu started to feel quite excited. This was a piece of talisman equipment made from gold materials and gold runes, and its power could rival epic-grade equipment. Zhao Fu had bought 50 gold talisman stones, which meant that he could make 50 pieces of advanced talisman equipment. That was equivalent to 50 pieces of epic-grade equipment. Zhao Fu thought about his soldiers holding a pile of epic-grade equipment on the battlefield and slaughtering everything in their path. How could Zhao Fu not be excited? Could the Kershi kingdom or any other kingdom achieve this? If he could obtain a large amount of advanced talisman equipment, Qin would have the power to defend against invasions. However, it was a pity that advanced talisman equipment could only be used by stage 3 cultivation. However, if he used silver runes and silver materials to create silver talisman equipment, its power would rival a trash legendary grade equipment. Zhao Fu thought about it and took out a piece of silver talisman equipment. Indeed, it could rival legendary grade equipment, but he needed stage 2 cultivation to use it. Zhao Fu had bought 4,000 silver talisman stones. If he could make all of them into talisman equipment, wouldn't that mean that Qin would have 4,000 pieces of legendary grade equipment? This was simply too exciting. Qin would truly be invincible, at least in the Legacy Land. However, Qin only had blue-grade ores, and Zhao Fu had not found any silver and gold-grade ores yet. He had obtained these ores through other means, so they were limited. It seemed that Qin would have to control silver and gold ores in the future to be able to create large amounts of advanced talisman equipment. It was a pity that these ores were incredibly rare, and Qin did not know when he would be able to find them. As such, he could only wait. Chapter 606. After coming to this place, Zhao Fu found that many of the branches of life in the ground had withered and did not have any signs of life at all. However, some of them seemed to be full of life and had grown roots into the ground, and their leaves were even greener than before. Zhao Fu counted and found that there were around 70 dead branches and 30 living branches, which was quite good. After all, 30 trees of life were worth 3 million gold coins. Moreover, these were all branches that had been cut off. With how lush the tree of life was, cutting off 100 branches every month would not be a problem at all. Qin could already nurture a large number of divine tree warriors, so it was no longer a problem. However, these living branches of life still needed some time to grow, and only when they became large trees would they be able to be used. Now that Qin had the water of life, he could catalyze these small trees. Zhao Fu was quite satisfied with the results here, and Zhao Fu planned to go to the outside world again. His main task was to buy a large number of talisman stones. Not only did he need white talisman stones, but he also needed advanced talisman stones. The 700,000 white talisman stones that he had bought and the 100,000 that he had bought in the Legacy Land only amounted to 800,000. Qin now had 1.8 million soldiers, and this number was continuously increasing. As such, the supply of talisman stones could not meet the demand. Apart from this, Zhao Fu also wanted to create talisman armor that had powerful attacks. If it also had powerful defenses, it would be able to increase Qin's battle strength by many times, so he lacked talisman stones. There were also Stage 1 corpses. After greatly increasing his soldiers, Qin still had 150,000 Stage 1 corpses left. After continuously clearing out East Green, Qin's population was continuously increasing, and Qin's military strength would once again increase. Hundreds of thousands of corpses would definitely not be enough, and Qin's main task was to clear out the 4 regions and not attack the other regions. As such, he would not be able to obtain corpses. However, it was possible that the outside world could provide a large number of corpses. After all, most of the soldiers outside were Stage 1, and there were even Stage 2 and Stage 3 corpses. If he could obtain their corpses, Qin's strength would once again increase. These were Zhao Fu's 2 main tasks. After preparing for a while, Zhao Fu once again stepped into the Otherworld Gate and arrived outside the Legacy Land. Because he had a map, Zhao Fu did not have to fly around randomly, and he was able to fly directly towards the Kirsch Kingdom. When he had bought the talisman stones, Zhao Fu had said that he would continue to buy more talisman stones. With the Swan Goose Financial Group's strength, they would most likely have a lot of them. When he came to the private room of the store, it was still Ruashi who received Zhao Fu. Guest. We've already prepared the talisman stones you wanted. Most of the talisman stones in the Kershi Kingdom are here, Ruashi said with a smile. Zhao Fu nodded and asked, how many? Ruashi replied, 5 million white talisman stones, 200,000 blue talisman stones, 20,000 silver talisman stones, and 500 gold talisman stones. That's a total of 6 million gold coins. Guest, you have a VIP card, so you can enjoy a 20% discount. Zhao Fu was quite shocked. The Swan Goose Financial Group had bought so many talisman stones, far surpassing what Zhao Fu had expected. However, it was still quite expensive. Even with a 20% discount, it still cost more than 5 million gold coins. Zhao Fu felt quite pained to spend so much money, but this was a resource that Qin desperately needed, so he had to buy it no matter how expensive it was. Zhao Fu also prepared a spatial ring and placed the gold coins within it before handing it to Ruashi. Ruashi took the spatial ring and looked at it, a brilliant smile appearing on her face. She then handed the spatial ring containing the talisman stones to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu took the spatial ring and looked at it, but he did not find anything wrong with it. Guess. This is our Swan Goose Financial Group's VIP card. In the future, you can enjoy a 30% discount on everything you buy from our financial group, Ruoshi said as she handed over a 3-colored card. Zhao Fu had spent 10 million gold coins here, which was an unimaginable amount of wealth. For someone with so much money, it was only right that he be given a VIP card. For Ruoshi to be able to do such a thing, her status in the financial group had greatly increased. Zhao Fu took the card and hesitated before saying, "Manager Ruoshi, I need another item. I also need one more item. I wonder if your consortium can get it?" Ruoshi felt quite delighted. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would need something else. At the same time, she became even more curious about Zhao Fu's identity. There were no more than 5 factions in the Kirsch Kingdom that could easily take out 10 million gold coins. With so much money, one could imagine just how prestigious Zhao Fu's identity was. "Guest, as long as you can pay the price, we'll help you obtain anything you need," Ruoshi said as she smiled. Zhao Fu felt quite at ease because he did not know where he could obtain countless corpses. The Swan Goose Financial Group was one of the largest financial groups in the Kirsch Kingdom, so they should be able to obtain them. As such, he did not hesitate and said, "I need a large number of stage 1 and above corpses." Ruoshi felt quite startled. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would want corpses. Ordinary corpses were useless and could only be buried. Many people in the heaven-awakened world used incantations of rest, which meant that after death, one would not be turned into an undead, allowing one's soul to rest in peace. The death race was one of the 8 great races, and their race's special characteristic was that after death, they could be turned into members of the death race. In order to prevent this, most people in the heaven-awakened world would use incantations of rest. Ruoshi hesitated and did not directly agree to Zhao Fu's request. After all, selling corpses was quite taboo. After thinking for a while, Ruoshi asked Zhao Fu seriously, "Guest, do you really need a large number? Do you really need a large number?" Zhao Fu could tell that there was hope, and he felt quite delighted and nodded. "I can't make this decision. I need to report this to the financial group. Guest, can you wait for a moment?" Ruoshi said apologetically after hearing Zhao Fu's reply. Zhao Fu understood how difficult this matter was, so he agreed. Following this, Ruoshi turned and left, and a female attendant brought in some refreshments and tea. Zhao Fu sat on a chair and silently waited. About half an hour later, Ruoshi came back and smiled as she said, "Guest, the financial group has agreed to help you collect corpses. However, the price is quite high. Stage 1 corpses cost 20 gold coins, Stage 2 corpses cost 100 gold coins, and Stage 3 corpses cost 500 gold coins. Ruoshi felt quite nervous because these corpses were not very useful, and selling them for 20 gold coins each was already quite expensive. After all, 20 gold coins were equivalent to 200,000 copper coins, which was enough for a normal family to live on for a few years. Chapter 607. Zhao Fu suppressed his excitement and said calmly, "All right. I'll take all of the corpses." Rahi let out a sigh of relief and felt quite impressed by Zhao Fu's boldness. She wondered how much money Zhao Fu had for him to be so generous. Moreover, Zhao Fu had said that he would take all of the corpses, which meant that this was an ongoing transaction, and the profits would be massive. Thinking to there, Rahi felt quite excited and nodded as she said, "Don't worry, guest. We'll help you obtain a large number of corpses, but that will take some time." Zhao Fu nodded and said that he still needed talisman stones, and if he had any, he would buy them, especially high-grade talisman stones. By now, Rahi felt quite shocked at Zhao Fu's wealth. He had been buying talisman stones and corpses. Just how much money had he spent? This was simply too shocking. Zhao Fu did not care about what Rahi thought, and he turned and left. A few days later, Zhao Fu came back. By now, Rahi had collected 400,000 Stage 1 corpses, 20,000 Stage 2 corpses, and 1,000 or so stage 3 corpses. Zhao Fu was quite shocked. He had never thought that the Swan Goose Financial Group would be able to collect so many corpses so quickly. This was especially so for the 20,000 stage 2 corpses and stage 3 corpses, making Zhao Fu feel quite excited. In actuality, the Swan Goose Financial Group had spent a lot of effort to buy corpses from all over the Kershi Kingdom. They did not dare to touch ordinary soldiers' corpses, as they could not afford to offend the governmental factions. As such, they could only turn their attention to non-governmental factions. As long as there was demand and value, there would be people who would do it. Moreover, there was a new profession, which was corpse thieves. In other words, people who specialized in stealing corpses. Many corpses that had just been buried would be dug up and stolen by them. The governmental factions definitely did not allow this sort of corpse stealing. If there were no one to claim the corpses, it would be fine. However, if someone else dug up the corpses of corpses with an owner, it would cause the commoners to be furious, and the Kershi kingdom became quite tense. Over the past few days, countless corpses had been dug up, and the governmental factions were investigating. The Swan Goose Financial Group had no choice but to be careful, and they even wanted to give up. However, with the huge benefits that Zhao Fu offered, he still chose to do it secretly. He wasn't as brazen as before, and he even expanded his business to several other countries. Since Zhao Fu had spent over 10 million gold, he didn't have a lot of gold on hand. Hence, he was using his equipment to trade. The equipment he sold wasn't equipment forged by Qin, but equipment that belonged to other players. There were tens of millions of pieces of equipment, and Zhao Fu had been worried that he wouldn't have a place to sell them. The price that Zhao Fu offered to trade equipment here was relatively low. Although it was a loss, Zhao Fu felt that it was worth it as long as he could continue to provide corpses for Qin. After returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu refined the Stage 2 corpses and obtained Stage 2 blood god pills. He then gave them to the soldiers from Qin City. In just a few days, Qin City gained another 20,000 Stage 2 soldiers. Adding on the soldiers from before, Qin City now had 40,000 Stage 2 soldiers. As for the Stage 3 corpses, because there weren't many of them, the refined blood god pills were mainly given to the captain-level figures. The other generals' cultivations were all at Stage 3, while Zhao Fu's cultivation was at Stage 4. Moreover, he had used a Stage 4 blood god pill, so his cultivation was at Stage 4 to 4. Rune equipment was also being mass-produced. In addition to rune weapons, they had also developed rune armor. The talisman armor looked a bit sci-fi, and it wasn't made of iron. Instead, it was a type of armor that had a few thin grooves all over the armor, and there were also some talisman runes. There was a circle at the center of the armor, which was the core of the armor and where its defense was the strongest. If one sent their cultivation power into the armor, the grooves and circles would light up, making it look like a sci-fi battle armor. It looked quite cool, and it was incredibly practical, comparable to talisman weapons of the same grade. Now that they had the corpses and the talisman stones, the two things that had been bothering Qin had been resolved. Now all Qin had to do was develop steadily. Zhao Fu was now quite free, and during this time, Zhao Fu mainly read about the grassy people's history and the situation of the grassy kingdoms. From there, he could obtain some information about the world before the previous one. For example, in the world before the previous one, there was a race called the Lontong people. They had western faces and deep blue eyes, and they looked quite similar to the foreigners in China. However, the Lontong people's blood was also blue. Zhao Fu could obtain a lot of information from the books, and Zhao Fu was quite interested in them, so he read them every day. "Lord Husband, you should rest. You've been reading for an entire day," Nu Lu said caringly as she walked into the room with a plate of pastries. Zhao Fu nodded. After reading for so long, he felt quite tired, so he put the book to the side and looked at Nu Lu. In actuality, Nu Lu's personality was quite similar to that of an ancient woman, and her embroidery and cooking skills were quite good. Women nowadays could not do such things, nor would they be so considerate. Nu Lu put the pastries on the table and sat on Zhao Fu's lap, gently massaging Zhao Fu's temples. After a few days together, the relationship between the two of them had become more and more intimate. Zhao Fu closed his eyes and leaned against the chair, enjoying her massage. At that moment, Nu Lu said, "Husband, what is the situation like with India in the West?" Now that Nu Lu's body had entered the heaven-awakened world, she did not know much about the outside world, nor did she have any methods to obtain information. As such, she could only ask Zhao Fu. Hearing her question, Zhao Fu replied, "It's still the same. India continues to conquer the 13 regions, and they've constructed powerful defenses and continuously increased their forces. Because of their faith, their battle intent is not low. Because of how many people there are, the Chinese side is unable to take back those regions for a while. The battles between the two sides are quite intense, but there is still no clear victor. I think that Shama is already digesting those regions. Even though the rewards are not in India's favor, India is only defending and buying time for Shama to digest those 13 regions. After digesting those 13 regions, he'll most likely be able to retreat back into India's territory. When that time comes, China will only obtain 13 empty regions. Shama has a nation armament and clan armament, and he has the support of countless players. After digesting those 13 regions, his strength will far surpass that of Qin, and he will become the most powerful country in the world. Zhao Fu was quite clear that Qin would be weaker than the Maurya dynasty. Firstly, Qin did not have as many players supporting him, and he was being attacked by countless people. Moreover, Qin had only digested 5 regions, while Shama could digest 13 regions. Chapter 608. Stronger than Qin Nan? Won't they be a great threat to China in the future? Nu Lu asked worriedly. Zhao Fu nodded and said, "That's for sure. Their population isn't any weaker than China's, and their history and culture aren't weak either. Moreover, India's territory isn't as big as China's territory, and they have more people in each region than China, making it easier to gather them. As such, regardless of whether they attack or defend, they have an advantage. They're definitely China's greatest enemy in the Midland continent, and they're their strongest competitor. Even Russia is much weaker than them. Then do you have a way to stop them, Lord Husband?" Hearing Zhao Fu, who stood at the peak of China, say such a thing, Nu Lu felt quite worried about China's future. Zhao Fu had thought about this before lightly laughing and saying to Nu Lu, "What do you think?" Nu Lu thought about it and kissed Zhao Fu's cheek as she shyly smiled and said, "I believe that Lord Husband is the strongest." Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh. Looking at the shy person in front of him, he lowered his head and kissed Nu Lu's lips before awkwardly sticking his tongue in. Nu Lu shyly responded to Zhao Fu, and their tongues intertwined. Both of their bodies' temperatures rose, and an ambiguous aura spread out. At that moment, Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and touched Nu Lu's chest. He had said that it was quite big, but now that he touched it, he found that it was quite shocking. It was even bigger than Long Xiaoxiao's. Zhao Fu loosened his mouth, but he did not let go. He made some light movements before looking at the red-faced Nu Lu in his embrace and lightly laughed. Nu Lu shyly tightly hugged Zhao Fu and buried her head in Zhao Fu's embrace as she asked in a small voice, "Lord Husband, do you want it?" "I'm ready." Zhao Fu smiled as he took off Nu Lu's clothes, revealing her white skin. It was enough to make anyone's body burn with desire. "Do you like her?" A voice suddenly rang in Zhao Fu's mind. It was the Golden Dragon's voice. Zhao Fu paused and felt quite confused. He did not know how to reply to the Golden Dragon because he could not explain his feelings towards Nu Lu. "What's wrong, husband?" Seeing that Zhao Fu had stopped, Nu Lu looked up and asked shyly. Zhao Fu chuckled and shook his head, but he didn't do anything. Nu Lu's face became red as she lightly bit her lips and took the initiative to take off her clothes, revealing her jade-like body and the massive things in front of her chest. She then took the initiative to kiss Zhao Fu's lips, and her tongue stuck into Zhao Fu's mouth. Then let's begin. I know the darkest thoughts in your heart. The golden dragon's calm voice rang in Zhao Fu's mind. Zhao Fu lightly pushed Nu Lu over and helped her put on her clothes. Nu Lu looked quite surprised and could not understand why Zhao Fu was doing this. Do you really know? Zhao Fu asked the golden dragon with a calm voice. Nu Lu looked quite confused and did not understand what Zhao Fu meant. Seeing how confused she was, Zhao Fu explained about the golden dragon, causing Nu Lu to lightly cry out. Her face once again became red as she buried her head into Zhao Fu's chest. The golden dragon's voice sounded quite confused as he asked, "Why aren't you continuing? Don't worry about me. In actuality, I'm also a woman. I know what you're thinking, she's your mother. Alright, what do you want to say? Hurry up and say it. Could it be that your fate dragons are split into men and women?" Zhao Fu cut off the golden dragon's words. "I can't explain things to you right now. What I want to say is, do you want to control India's nation armament and clan armament?" The golden dragon asked. Hearing the golden dragon's words, Zhao Fu felt quite uncertain and wondered if he had heard incorrectly. He asked to confirm, "Are you saying that I can control other countries' nation armaments and clan armaments?" "Of course. Otherwise, why would I be talking to you?" the golden dragon said as he rolled his eyes at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked because this was almost impossible. Nation armaments were the most important and fundamental items of a nation, and only the legatee of that nation could use them. Let alone using them, others would not even be allowed to touch them, or they would be devoured by the backlash. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. As such, Zhao Fu was quite shocked when he heard the golden dragon's words. "What method is that?" Zhao Fu asked after calming himself down. The golden dragon replied, "That's a bit troublesome, so you need to make some preparations. If it wasn't for the fact that I feel that India is a great threat and that it's better to deal with it as soon as possible, I wouldn't have told you this method." Zhao Fu nodded seriously. As long as he could obtain a nation armament, it would be understandable if it was a bit troublesome. The golden dragon explained, "Zhao Fu, don't you have the Emperor Phoenix statue? First, capture all of the women with Phoenix Chi in that country's royal family, the more the better. Use their Phoenix Chi to weaken the nation armament's resistance, and then use the heaven and earth refining formation to forcefully refine the nation armament. If you still want to use their nation armaments, you'll need to capture at least 100,000 of their people. The more the better. Have them complete the transfer of fate, and only then will you be able to use their nation armament. If you want to use their nation armament, it'll be even more troublesome. The method is the same as before. Capture all of India's women with Phoenix Chi and use their Phoenix Chi to weaken the clan armament's resistance. That won't do. It'll be best to heavily injure their clan and cause the clan armament to weaken. That way, it'll be easier to deal with the clan armament. Afterward, you'll use the great heaven and earth refining to forcefully refine it. You'll also need to capture at least 1 million of their people and have them submit to you." After hearing the golden dragon's words, Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. According to what the golden dragon had said, wouldn't it be able to steal nation armaments from dynasties? A single nation armament was already so terrifying. If countless nation armaments were gathered together, wouldn't they be able to kill gods and destroy laws? Just thinking about it was terrifying and shocking. Zhao Fu could not help but feel excited and he asked, "Will this really work? Also, what's the great heaven and earth refining?" The golden dragon felt quite helpless as he replied, "Of course it's true. Back then, the Heaven Murder Empire had countless nation armaments. Back then, we didn't have the Emperor Phoenix statue, so it would have been even more troublesome to deal with them. There's also the great heaven and earth refining, which is to gather 10 people with great fate and great power to gather the heaven and earth fate and refine them. After hearing the Golden Dragon's explanation, Zhao Fu felt much more at ease. However, after thinking about it, he realized that the Heaven Murder Empire, which had such terrifying power, had still been destroyed in the end. This was quite shocking. When thinking about this, Zhao Fu decided not to think about it. Now that he had this method, Zhao Fu had even more reason to make a move against India. Chapter 609. I've decided to act against India, Zhao Fu said to Nu Lu in his embrace. Hearing this, Nu Lu kissed Zhao Fu on the cheek and lightly smiled as she said, I knew that husband would definitely take care of this. Zhao Fu laughed. If it wasn't for the fact that the Golden Dragon had said that he could take nation armaments and clan armaments, Zhao Fu would not have been able to make such a decision. All right. I'm going to return to the real world now, Zhao Fu said. Nu Lu lightly nodded before thinking of something and saying, Husband, I've been in Qin City for so long and haven't told anyone about my family's situation. I've been in Great Qin for so long, but I haven't told anyone about my family's situation yet. Can you help me tell the ancient clans that I'm doing well and that they don't need to worry? Zhao Fu nodded and agreed before returning to the real world. After returning to the real world, Zhao Fu called Mu Gillen and had him bring over all of the information he had on India. He then had people invite Su Yuyan over. Su Yuyan came before Zhao Fu and looked quite surprised. It had always been very difficult for others to meet with Zhao Fu, and it was the first time that Zhao Fu had taken the initiative to meet with someone, and it was her. What is it? Don't tell me you miss me. Su Yuyan joked as she sat next to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, Looks like you're quite narcissistic. I want Flower Moon to help me find information on some people. With Flower Moon's abilities, it should be quite easy. I can consider working with Flower Moon and not act against Flower Moon's people in the future. Moreover, I can protect Flower Moon in the future and even provide a safe place after establishing a kingdom. Su Yuyan's expression became serious and understood how important this matter was. If they could rely on Qin City, Flower Moon would be much safer and would not have to worry about any dangers. Who do you want information on? Su Yuyan asked. Zhao Fu answered without hesitation, I want information on everyone in the Shaler family. The Ying family's influence was huge, but it was limited to China. Although they could find out some information, it was not detailed. On the other hand, Flower Moon's influence was spread all over the world, and they were very good at gathering information. That was why Zhao Fu needed to cooperate with them. Su Yuyan also understood and asked in surprise, Is Qin going to attack India? Zhao Fu didn't mind and nodded. Su Yuyan smiled and said, I can cooperate with Qin on behalf of Flower Moon. Also, what about the 3 of us that Qin captured? It's unlikely that I'll let them go. Now that I've been made a concubine by the Emperor, I can promise to help you take care of them, Zhao Fu said apologetically. What? They were conferred the title of concubines? Su Yuyan asked, pleasantly surprised. She and Flower Moon's people thought that they had been captured by Great Qin's legatee to be used as sex tools to be tortured every day. With how cruel that legatee was, this was quite possible. However, they had become concubines, which had a high status in Qin. Now, they didn't need to worry about them anymore. In fact, Su Yuyan didn't expect that all of the women that Zhao Fu had captured had been made concubines. Zhao Fu lightly nodded in response. Su Yuyan happily leaned over. Seeing that, Zhao Fu didn't have time to react and was pushed onto the sofa by her. Then, Su Yuyan pressed her fragrant lips onto Zhao Fu's and stuck her tongue into Zhao Fu's mouth. Then, they intertwined their tongues and sucked each other. A few minutes later, Su Yuyan's cheeks were red, and she panted as she looked at Zhao Fu. Thank you. It's because of you that Emperor Qin cooperated with Flower Moon and made us concubines. Zhao Fu was quite surprised and hadn't expected such a thing to happen. Looking at this big star, he wanted to explain. However, Su Yuyan lowered her head and kissed Zhao Fu's lips again. A few minutes later, Su Yuyan tidied up her clothes and said coquettishly, "I'm going now. If you want to go further, it'll depend on your performance." Seeing Su Yuyan leave, Zhao Fu didn't know what had happened between them. Zhao Fu shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then, he secretly sent the message to all parts of China, and everyone in China was delighted. They had never thought that Emperor Qin would act against India. India was China's #1 enemy, and all the factions and dynasties feared it greatly. Now that India had occupied 13 regions, it was like a sharp sword stabbing into China's heart, causing them great pain. Now, almost all of China's borders had been taken back, and they had even invaded some other countries' regions. However, India had not taken back China's territory. On the internet, Indian netizens said that the 13 regions already belonged to India, and they told the Chinese people to scram. However, despite this, China was unable to do anything to India. India was simply too powerful, and with Shama overseeing the battle, China had failed many times. China's failures had undoubtedly helped India become even more arrogant, and there were many similar discussions on the internet. What Chinese? They're just trash. Can you beat me? As expected, India is the #1 country in the world. Even China doesn't dare to touch us. Strength proves everything. Our Lord Shama is invincible, and no one in China is a match for him. That's right. Our Lord Shama is the strongest, and no one in China can compare to him. I heard that Emperor Qin is very powerful. Call him out if he has the guts. The smaller countries that had failed to invade and had been beaten up by China were naturally quite angry. Now that China had suffered a loss, they were incredibly happy, and they would definitely stand on India's side and speak up for India. However, their tone was quite unpleasant. We admit that those territories belong to India. You Chinese people, scram. Great India is #1 and China is #2. China is trash. India has conquered your territory, and yet you're attacking us? As expected, you're all weak in front of India. We support India in beating up China. These words caused many Chinese people to sigh and feel incredibly furious. They did everything they could to attack India, and all of the various sects and factions tried everything they could, but they were unable to break through India's defenses. They could only suppress their anger and feel like exploding. Some people thought about Qin and hoped that Qin would help, but they did not want to. Qin was not in the west of China, and with what had happened before, it was impossible for Qin to help China. Moreover, even if Qin wanted to help, they had only just recovered and could not use any of their fate. How could Emperor Qin be a match for Shama? Now, Shama had a nation armament and clan armament, as well as massive amounts of fate. Anyone who came would lose. Chapter 610. Even the dynasty legatees that were hostile to Qin supported this, as India was slapping all of China in the face. It was a pity that they had tried, but they had all failed. In actuality, they had long since understood that they were inferior to Qin's legatee, and Qin would be able to easily resolve the problems they faced. After receiving Zhao Fu's message and Nu Lu's message, the ancient clans felt much more at ease. With Nu Lu's beauty, the ancient clans could almost imagine what kind of treatment Nu Lu would receive and how pitiful her situation would be, making them feel incredibly pained. However, they could not ask Qin to hand her over, as she had done all of this willingly. Now that they heard that Nu Lu was doing well and that Qin was willing to deal with India, the ancient clans understood that Nu Lu had achieved her goal. She had turned Qin over to the right path, and this was something that the entire ancient clans wanted to see. Even the elderly woman, who had opposed this before, smiled and expressed her support for Niu Lu's actions. The only person who opposed this was Xianyuan Xiu. He had not received this news yet, and he was focused on becoming more powerful in the heaven-awakened world. As Xianyuan Xiu's descendant, he would definitely have a powerful legacy. The other 100 schools of thought were also quite happy about Qin's change, and they were willing to do some things for China. From how they saw it, there was no need for Qin to do anything, as their positions were different. Moreover, Qin had just recovered, so they would not ask Qin to do anything. However, it had taken the initiative to step forward. With the support of all sides, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. The first step of the plan had been a success, and after obtaining all of the Shama family's information from Flower Moon, the second step of the plan had been a success. Zhao Fu returned to the heaven-awakened world and started to carry out the plan. The first was to modify the Otherworld Gate. Because of how powerful the Otherworld Gate was, not only could it teleport people across worlds, but it could also teleport people across regions. However, because of the restrictions, it could only teleport one person at a time. However, it could continuously teleport people, and Zhao Fu planned to take 50,000 assassins with him. The Otherworld Gate could teleport 12 people in 1 minute, 120 people in 10 minutes, 720 people in 1 hour, and about 17,000 people in a day. 50,000 people would need to be continuously teleported for more than 2 days to reach the west of the continent. Zhao Fu understood that it would be very dangerous this time, so he gave the 50,000 assassins talisman equipment. These talisman equipment were all made of blue-grade materials and blue-grade talisman stones, and they were comparable to ordinary gold-grade equipment. Whether it was weapons or defensive equipment, because this kind of rune equipment belonged to the assassin profession, the previous kind of armor wasn't suitable for assassins, so it was changed to the lighter and more portable inner armor. Most of the 50,000 assassins had Stage 1 cultivation, and some had even broken through to Stage 2. Zhao Fu had brought the 12 people from the Assassin Legacy because he had other missions for them. He also brought the 100 ghost illusionists. As for the others, Zhao Fu left them all in Qin. Everything was handed over to Qin State, and everything was handed over to Bai Qi. After preparing everything, Zhao Fu took 50,000 assassins to the west of China. After all, such a big matter had shaken all of China, and it was impossible for India not to know about it. After hearing that Qin was participating, Shama and the various large factions' expressions became quite serious. This was because if Qin was participating, this battle would go from difficult level to nightmare level. Everyone acknowledged how terrifying Qin was, and no one doubted how terrifying he was. The only thing that was fortunate was that Qin had only just recovered, and both Qin and Qin's legatee were still in a weakened state. This made them feel much more at ease. If Qin was at his peak, no one would want to face him head-on. It was not that they would definitely lose this time, and there was a chance that they would win. If they could really destroy Great Qin, India's fate, reputation, and fame would all be greatly boosted. No one in the world would think that India was weaker than China, and they would think that India was stronger than China. India was now the most powerful country in the world. Moreover, as long as they could defeat Qin, there would be nothing to fear in China. They would be able to launch another invasion, and this time, India would launch a full-scale invasion without any worries. After all, apart from Qin, there was nothing to fear in all of China. He, Shama, would replace Qin's legatee and stand at the peak of the world. He would look down on the heavens and earth, and everyone would have to submit to him. Shama and the various large factions in India discussed and continuously sent countless soldiers over. This time, they could only succeed and not fail. They had to cause the flames of war to spread throughout China and trample on the proud Chinese people, allowing India to reach the peak of the world. On the Chinese side, the various sects madly sent in soldiers. With Qin's participation, they were incredibly excited and felt incredibly confident. The ordinary people's reactions were even more intense, and they excitedly yelled. Not only were there massive rewards, but with how terrifying Great Qin was, countless people believed that under Great Qin's leadership, they would be able to break through India's defenses and chase out all of the Indian players, allowing them to vent their anger. The people from India and Huaxia continued to pour in from all directions. Their aura gradually rose, and in the end, it reached a level that shook the heavens. At a glance, it was a sea of people, a black mass that stretched as far as the eye could see. This was not only a clash between two large countries, but it was also a clash between two large ethnic groups. This battle would shock the world, and it would be recorded in history for thousands of years. The entire world was paying close attention to this battle. Whether it was the descendants of King Arthur, the Pharaoh Kingdom, or the Mei Kingdom, everyone was watching. The Midland continent was a good place, but it was also filled with endless dispute. With both China and India here, many people had already predicted that they would clash. They also understood that this battle would determine the structure of the Midland continent, and it would even affect the entire world. After all, China and India accounted for 2/8 of the world's population, and they could definitely affect the structure of the world. If China won this battle, no one would be able to shake China's position, but if India won, India would replace China's position. However, even if one ignored everything else, just the scene of the two large countries clashing was enough to make people feel incredibly excited. Back in the west of China, Zhao Fu spent more than 2 days before finally bringing over 50,000 people. Zhao Fu then gave Liu Mei and the others some missions for them to carry out in secret. Following this, Zhao Fu led the 50,000 assassins to where the Chinese army was stationed. Chapter 6:11. Qin's here. Suddenly, there was a loud shout, and the noisy scene immediately became quiet. Countless people looked in the direction of the voice. A person wearing a black cloak and giving off a terrifying, mysterious, and noble aura walked out with hooded figures who gave off cold auras. Countless people made way for them and looked in that direction with curiosity, respect, and fear. They were Qin's people, and they were indeed terrifying. The person walking in front was most likely Qin's legatee. Seeing the famous legatee Qin with their own eyes, countless people felt both excited and afraid. However, the scene remained silent. In the building at the center of the crowd, the representatives of the other large factions walked out and walked towards Zhao Fu. "I'm Liu Yi from the great Han dynasty." Liu Yi led everyone over to Zhao Fu and gave a trace of a smile as he introduced himself. Zhao Fu looked at the scholarly-looking young man in front of him and nodded as he replied, "I'm Qin's legatee." Liu Yi felt a bit awkward towards Zhao Fu's simple and hidden answer, and he did not understand why Zhao Fu was hiding his identity. However, things were more important, so Liu Yi did not mind too much. As for the Great Tang dynasty and Great Qing dynasty, they were quite wary of seeing Qin's legatee. Because there was enmity between them, they did not come. However, as one of the 5 ancient countries, Liu Yi had some confidence, so he came to see this person who he was wary of. This war was mainly divided into 4 war zones, which were held in 4 different regions. Everyone else had come out of courtesy, and would head to their respective war zones later. Zhao Fu had come to the main region, and he was going to face the Indian army head-on. The 40 million soldiers were all under Zhao Fu's command. Following this, Zhao Fu exchanged pleasantries with everyone, and the other large factions' impression of Zhao Fu changed. Now that they had seen Qin's legatee, they found that he was not as barbaric and violent as the rumors said. Instead, he was quite gentle and friendly. Following this, the battle began, and everyone else left. Zhao Fu took charge of the situation, and with Imperial Prince Qin's reputation, no one dared to defy him. All of them seemed very obedient and loyal, because this time their confidence was all given by Qin. Without Qin, they would not have such confidence. Zhao Fu also came to the high platform, his voice full of majesty and sonorous. You don't have to worry about anything. This time, China will definitely win. Just charge forward. Qin doesn't want anything from the battlefield. He will even reward you. This time, let these barbarians see the true power of China. Kill them all. China will win. China will win. China will win. Countless people shouted excitedly, their voices deafening, echoing out for dozens of li. Their fighting spirit was high, as if they were truly invincible. Zhao Fu also revealed a satisfied smile and led them to officially set off. The massive crowd gave off a terrifying aura as they surged forward, seeming like they were going to destroy everything. Very quickly, Zhao Fu led the massive crowd to India's defensive wall. Looking at the 20-meter-tall wall made of massive rocks, it seemed that it would not be easy to break through. The top of the wall was filled with countless people, all of them holding weapons and looking excited and filled with battle intent. They did not seem to be afraid at all, and it seemed that both sides had been encouraging each other. Neither side's battle intent was weak. The two armies faced off, and the atmosphere was incredibly tense. Both sides were like berserk beasts, giving off threatening roars. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked at the Indian army in front of him. He slowly raised his hand and pointed forwards as he said, "Charge!" Boom! His voice was like the eruption of a mountain, and the air seemed to explode. The huge wave of people was like a flood, rushing towards the Indian army. Swish, 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 the sound of the air being torn could be heard as countless arrows flew out from the top of the wall and landed on the ground. Many people were hit by the arrows and died. The Chinese side also drew their bows and knocked arrows before shooting out. Many people on the top of the wall were hit by the arrows, causing them to cry out in pain. The massive crowd quickly rushed to the bottom of the wall and set up ladders and threw down countless flying logs. The Indian people on the top of the wall continuously shot down arrows and threw down heavy objects. They even poured boiling oil on them, launching a powerful counterattack. The Chinese side suffered many casualties. Some fell from the sky, some were crushed to death by heavy objects, and some were poured boiling oil on them, causing them to cry out in pain. The Chinese side continued to attack, and the scene was incredibly intense. However, their morale had weakened because they had suffered many casualties. However, at that moment, a gray fog covered the 20-kilometer-wide wall, and the people within it lost all signs of life. On Qin's side, the 100 ghost illusionists had made their move. Right now, Great Qin's 300 ghost illusionists were all at least at Stage 2, and most of them were just a bit away from breaking through to Stage 3. If they didn't have Stage 3 cultivation and their willpower wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't be able to break free from the illusion and would be stuck in the dark ghost world. Now that this side was under control, countless Chinese players rushed over and set up ladders to quickly climb up the wall. However, the people on the top of the wall did not dare to enter, because if they did, they would fall into the illusion as well. Seeing that the wall was about to be easily taken down, Shama finally couldn't help but act. He took out his City Lord seal, causing a massive aura to explode out. Azure light shot out in all directions, looking incredibly resplendent. The ghostly chi in the dark ghost realm quickly dissipated. Ghost-type skills were very afraid of things that countered ghosts. Xing. A massive black sword light, bringing with it an incredibly sharp sword wind, tore through the air and slashed towards Shama. Zhao Fu exploded out with the power of the Qin seal and started to attack Shama. Facing this terrifying attack, Shama slashed out with his saber, sending out a massive azure saber light that collided with the black sword light and exploded. However, after the black sword light exploded, it turned into countless traces of sword chi that shot towards Shama. Shama was given a big fright and stretched out his hand. A hemispherical azure barrier appeared in front of him, blocking the countless traces of black sword chi. However, the Sanskrit chanting stopped, and the ghostly chi on the wall once again started to spread out. However, Shama was not in the mood to worry about this, and his expression became serious because a person had appeared in front of him. He knew who this person was. Only Qin's legatee had such power, and he was the person that Shama feared the most. If Shama only used his City Lord Seal's power, he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat Zhao Fu. After all, Zhao Fu had a great City Lord Seal and 23 City Lord Seals, while Shama only had a great City Lord Seal, so he definitely wouldn't be able to defeat Zhao Fu. Chapter 6:12. Boom! An explosion sounded out as Shama tilted his saber and exploded out with a terrifying aura. An azure aura flame erupted around his body, and Shama's clothes fluttered in the wind. Shama's power had reached its peak, and he looked like a peerless expert. Zhao Fu gripped the Sin Dragon sword, and his expression became serious. He first closed his eyes and lightly breathed out before suddenly opening them and exploding out with his City Lord Seal and King's power. A berserk gale spread out as a massive black aura flowed out from Zhao Fu's body, surrounding Zhao Fu and covering Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu's body could not be seen at all, and only his blood-red eyes could be seen. Within the black aura, they looked like two blood-red gems, giving off a brilliant blood-red light. His aura was just as terrifying, making him seem like a demon. Arg! Shama was the first to attack, and he instantly rushed towards Zhao Fu. He slashed out with his saber, sending out a massive azure saber chi towards Zhao Fu like a gale. Shing! The black aura gave off a sword hum as a massive black crescent flew out. It was incredibly sharp, and it seemed as if it could easily tear apart space itself. As it flashed by, the black aura around Zhao Fu dissipated. Bang! The black crescent moon instantly split the cyan gale in two. The cyan gale exploded and turned into an even more berserk gale that spread out. The people below were directly cut into several pieces by the cyan gale. The scene was bloody. Shing! Shama held his saber and casually slashed out, destroying the incoming crescent. Suddenly, Zhao Fu's body blurred as he disappeared and reappeared above Shama in an instant. The Sin Dragon sword gave off a large amount of sword light as he slashed downwards, sending out a black sword light that seemed as if it wanted to split apart everything. Shama's pupils constricted as he raised his saber with both hands and blocked. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as the sword and saber clashed, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Sarah's body was sent flying back 10 or so meters before he stopped. His expression was serious as he looked at Zhao Fu, and a trace of blood leaked out of his lips. With your current strength, it's impossible for you to defeat me. Now submit to me. Zhao Fu's voice was domineering and dignified, carrying with it a terrifying demonic sound that could shake one's soul. Shama's expression became savage, and the Azure City Lord's seal within his body continuously trembled. Bang! A loud explosion rang out as the cyan flames exploded. However, Sarah's figure disappeared. In the next second, she appeared before Zhao Fu and slashed at Zhao Fu. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard as Zhao Fu raised his sword to block the incoming blade. However, at that moment, Sarah's leg kicked out, striking Zhao Fu's waist and forcing Zhao Fu to retreat by 7 or 8 meters. Prince Qin is just SOSO. Sarah gave a loud laugh. Zhao Fu's expression became cold as he raised the Sin Dragon sword and pointed it at Sarah. Countless traces of black water vapor quickly gathered towards Zhao Fu. Swish! The water vapor instantly formed a 100-meter-long water sword that stabbed towards Sarah in the time it took for a spark to fly off of a flint. Sarah barely dodged to the side, and the clothes on his shoulder were slashed open. At that moment, Zhao Fu gripped the 100-meter-long water sword and slashed horizontally towards Sarah. Sarah raised his saber and blocked the water sword, but he was still forced back by the massive force. Zhao Fu once again swung the 100-meter-long water sword, sending out a massive sword wind that seemed to cover the heavens and earth as it ferociously smashed towards Shama. Sarah coldly harumphed and gripped his saber with both hands. His muscles bulged, and his veins could clearly be seen. Traces of azure crystalline aura rose up from Sarah's body, forming a massive and ferocious-looking bird behind him. Scree! As the massive sword wind rushed over, the ferocious-looking bird spread its wings and gave off an ear-piercing cry. Corporeal sound waves spread out and dissipated the sword wind. Sarah's saber shined with azure light as the ferocious-looking bird flapped its wings and shot out like an arrow, giving off a ferocious aura as it shot towards Zhao Fu. Seeing this, Zhao Fu raised the 100-meter-long water sword and vigorously slashed out, destroying the ferocious bird and causing it to dissipate into azure aura. However, the 100-meter-long water sword also turned into countless traces of water vapor and disappeared. However, Sarah suddenly appeared behind Zhao Fu and raised his saber as he slashed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu had long since expected this, and he slashed out with his sword, sending out a sharp sword arc. Sarah's expression fell, and she immediately retreated. She circulated her power and formed an azure energy barrier around her body. Swish! The sword arc flashed, and the green energy barrier was broken apart. A horizontal wound appeared on Shama's chest, and blood flowed out, dyeing his clothes red. Luckily, most of the power had been blocked by the energy barrier, so Shama's injuries were not very serious. Roar! A massive dragon's roar sounded out, shaking the surroundings. Zhao Fu raised his sword, and a massive sword aura spread out. A water dragon spiraled in the sky, giving off an extremely terrifying aura, and the clouds in the surroundings were all scattered. At that moment, Zhao Fu's blood-red eyes looked at Sarah, and the icy killing intent caused Sarah's heart to feel a chill. Sarah was greatly startled and hurriedly used all of her strength to block with her saber in front of her to defend. Zhao Fu raised his sword and slashed down towards Sarah. The water dragon spiraling in the sky gave off immense power as it swooped down and slammed into Sarah like a bolt of lightning. Boom! In that moment, the water dragon smashed Sarah into the ground, resulting in a massive explosion. The ground cracked, and a 100-meter-wide crater appeared. Dust filled the air, making it impossible to see what was going on. The massive battle between the two of them caused the two armies below to feel quite shocked. They had never thought that both of them would have such terrifying power. However, seeing that Sarah had been smashed into the ground, Qin's legatee evidently had the upper hand, and the Chinese side's morale immediately became stronger. On the other hand, the Indian side looked at their lord Sarah, who seemed to have lost, and their morale weakened. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked at the center of the crater. He understood that things would not end so easily, as from the beginning, Sarah had only used his city lord Seal's power. After the dust settled, Sarah coughed up a mouthful of blood and stood up. He looked at Zhao Fu in the sky and arrogantly laughed as he said, "Legatee Qin, I admit that you're stronger than me. However, this is only limited to the city lord Seal's power. Victory belongs to me because you can't use your nation armament or clan armament, right? Today I'll trample on your name, Qin." Zhao Fu did not reply to Sarah's words, and he charged down from the sky towards Sarah. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out in the surrounding thousands of kilometers as a silver pillar of light rushed into the sky. A shocking power exploded out like a wild gale, and the ground started to crumble as trees, boulders, and some people were blown into the sky. The clouds in the sky started to swirl as countless clouds madly gathered, forming a massive vortex with the silver pillar at the center. From a distance, this place seemed to be covered by a layer of haze, and an oppressive aura covered the entire region, causing countless creatures to flee in all directions. Chapter 6:13. Shama had finally used the full power of his nation armament. It seemed that Shama had made up his mind to kill Great Qin's legatee, trample on Great Qin's name, and replace China at the peak. Shama had made up his mind to kill Great Qin's legatee and trample on its name. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked as he looked at the stone pillar descending from the sky. This was called the Pillar of Ashoka, and it was even more powerful than ordinary nation armaments, as expected from the Maurya dynasty's nation armament. Just then, Zhao Fu had rushed towards Shama, but he had been forced back by that massive aura. Shama coldly laughed and pointed at Zhao Fu, and a silver ray of light shot out from his finger. In an instant, it sent Zhao Fu flying, and the terrifying power slammed Zhao Fu's body into a mountain hundreds of meters away. Countless cracks appeared on the mountain, and Zhao Fu's entire body seemed to be embedded into a stone wall as he lightly coughed up a mouthful of blood. This nation armament's power was quite terrifying. Right now, Zhao Fu could not use his nation armament because Qin's fate and origin Qi had only just recovered, and if he used it again, it would harm his foundation. Chapter 6:14. The countless people in the other regions could sense how terrifying and desperate the main region was. Just this aura alone caused them to feel incredibly shocked, and they felt that they would not be able to deal with it. It was likely that only Qin's legatee would be able to face such terrifying power head-on. Lu Ye's expression was quite serious towards this terrifying power, and he felt a trace of worry. He did not know if Qin's legatee would be able to defend against it. If he was unable to defend, they would lose this battle. Even though they had been rivals with Qin's legatee in the past, Qin was now on China's side. If he lost, it would be disadvantageous to all of China. Back at the battlefield, the heavens and earth were dim and yin and yang were reversed. Everything was silent, and there was not even the sound of wind. There was only a five-colored pillar of light that gave off a boundless, ocean-like aura. Scree! A massive cry sounded out from the depths of the hole, seeming to be able to tear apart the nine heavens. It was incredibly terrifying, and a peacock giving off five-colored divine light flew out from the hole. The five-colored divine light covered the entire ground, and a massive aura spread out, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. This peacock was thousands of meters long, and its body seemed to be made of glass. It was incredibly beautiful, and Shama was covered with blood on the peacock's body. He gave off an eerie killing intent as he looked at Zhao Fu. Shama had never thought that he would be forced by Zhao Fu to use India's clan armament, the peacock god statue. Shama did not have any other thoughts, and his heart was filled with flames of fury. He simply wanted to kill Zhao Fu. Looking at Zhao Fu, Shama once again attacked. The five-colored peacock flapped its wings, and a five-colored aura flooded towards Zhao Fu like a massive ocean. This five-colored sea occupied the entire sky. It looked beautiful, but it was extremely terrifying. Everything it touched would be turned into nothingness. Even space itself was constantly collapsing. When it landed on the ground or the trees, these things would immediately disappear as if they were forcefully erased by something. It was extremely horrifying. The five-colored ocean poured down and quickly covered the ground. Everything disappeared, and some people were inundated. Before they could even cry out, they died. At the same time, Zhao Fu was also inundated by the five-colored sea. Such a massive and terrifying attack was not something that ordinary people could deal with, and it was enough to wipe out an army of 1,000. Seeing that Zhao Fu was submerged in the five-colored sea without any reaction, countless people in Huaxia felt their hearts sink. Is Crown Prince Qin dead? Did Huaxia lose again? Ao, 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 9 loud golden dragons roared, shaking the heavens and the earth. Golden light radiated in all directions, dyeing half of the sky gold. Zhao Fu stood in the middle of the Rainbow Sea. 9 golden dragons surrounded Zhao Fu, and the Rainbow Sea couldn't approach him at all. Zhao Fu was like an emperor of the human world. Even though Zhao Fu could not use his nation armament, he could use his clan armament. After all, the clan armament represented China and could use all of China's fate. Of course, this required the support of the majority of the people, and this power had to be used to defend against foreign invasions, not for internal strife. Wu! Crown Prince Qin, please bless me with the luck of the Huaxia people. Banish foreign invasions. As Zhao Fu spoke, all of China trembled. Everyone received a system announcement and sensed something, and they immediately agreed to support him. Countless traces of fate rose up from various regions in China and madly gathered. Traces of fate formed an ocean and started to flow into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu's body automatically rose into the sky, and his body gave off a brilliant golden light, making him look like a golden sun. His aura seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth. Seeing this, Shama understood that Zhao Fu had long since been prepared, but he could also gather all of India's fate. Following this, India's fate madly gathered, forming an ocean that flowed into Shama's body. The five-colored divine light that the five-colored peacock gave off became even more intense. The terrifying auras of the two of them covered the entire Midland continent, and all kingdoms and races felt this terrifying power, causing their bodies to instinctively tremble. As such, everyone held their breaths. They had been paying close attention to this battle, as it was not just a battle between two kingdoms but also a battle between two races. Now, both sides were going all out, gathering their fate for the final battle. Back on the battlefield, Zhao Fu and Shama each occupied one side of the sky, and it was as if they were two different worlds. One was covered by five-colored divine light, while the other was covered by golden light. Clang, clang, clang. Zhao Fu was the first to act. A sword mark flashed on the back of his hand, and 5 swords appeared around him. The Sky Demon Sword, Slaughtering Ghost Sword, Royal Wood Sword, Sin Dragon Sword, and Seraph Sword. Under Zhao Fu's control, the 5 swords gave off a 1,000-meter-long sword light, causing the entire world to be filled with boundless sword qi. Everything in the surroundings was slashed apart by the sword qi, and sword gashes could be seen everywhere, turning it into a world of swords. Boom! Zhao Fu led the boundless sword qi towards Shama, and the 5 swords followed by his side, shooting towards Shama. The massive sword qi caused the air to explode and the surrounding regions to tremble. Shama rode on his massive 5-colored peacock, and did not show any weakness as he rushed over. He also brought with him a terrifying 5-colored ocean, giving off a shocking aura. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the 5-colored ocean and the boundless sword qi collided, making it seem as if 2 worlds had collided. The sword qi was incredibly sharp and could cut through anything, while the 5-colored aura could turn everything into nothingness. The 2 of them collided intensely, and it was either the sword qi that destroyed the 5-colored aura or the 5-colored sword qi that turned the sword qi into nothingness. Zhao Fu waved his finger, and the 5 swords around him gave off large amounts of sword light that shot towards Shama and started to attack. The swords turned into rays of light that continuously shot towards the 5-colored peacock from different directions, leaving behind sword gashes in the air. Shama controlled the 5-colored peacock to give off a 5-colored divine light and defend against the sharp flying swords. He mainly used his claws and wings to continuously block or slap the flying swords away. The shock waves from this were massive, causing massive explosions to sound out in the sky. Seeing that the 5-colored peacock was not heavily injured and was only lightly injured, Zhao Fu's pupils constricted as a cold intent appeared in his eyes. Roar! 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 Dragons' roars sounded out as the 9 golden dragons around Zhao Fu roared as they rushed towards the 5-colored peacock. After leaving Zhao Fu's side, the golden dragons turned into 1,000-meter-long golden dragons that madly attacked the 5-colored peacock. Some of the golden dragons used their bodies to slam into the 5-colored peacock, sending it flying, while others used their bites to take advantage of the opportunity to bite the 5-colored peacock. These bites were incredibly powerful, while some of the golden dragons used their coiling methods to bind the 5-colored peacock. Adding on the 5 swords continuously attacking, the 5-colored peacock fell into a disadvantageous situation and became covered with wounds. Shama's expression was quite unsightly as he shouted, "Emperor Divine Body! Kree!" The 5-colored peacock gave a cry and spread its wings, exploding out with an intense 5-colored divine light that forced the golden dragon flying swords back. Following this, the massive 5-colored peacock turned into a 5-colored wave and entered Shama's body. Boom! A world-destroying power exploded out, causing the surrounding 10,000 meters of space to collapse and turn into nothingness. The surroundings became dark, as if there was a black hole that devoured everything. At that moment, a 5-colored divine light shot out from the black hole as a terrifying figure appeared at the center of the black hole. This figure had a dignified and holy expression and was dressed in 5-colored feather clothes. There was a 5-colored eye on his forehead and a 5-colored light behind his back. He held a 2-meter-long stone staff and looked no different from a god. Zhao Fu looked at Shama, who had greatly changed, and felt quite shocked. Shama's power was now many times greater than before, and he had even used the pillars of Ashoka. Shama coldly looked at Zhao Fu and swung his stone staff, causing a 5-colored light to shoot out and blast the golden dragon and flying swords away. Zhao Fu also looked at Shama and grabbed at the air, causing the 5 swords to fuse into a single sword. The 9 golden dragons also fused into the sword, forming a golden dragon sword. It looked quite similar to the Sin Dragon sword, but it was completely golden and covered with dragon scales. This sword gave off a world-destroying aura, and a trace of sword chi seemed to be able to slash apart the world. It was like a peerless divine sword. Zhao Fu gripped the sword and his aura rose, becoming not any weaker than Shama's. The battle had only just begun. Shama attacked first, turning into a ray of light and rushing in front of Zhao Fu. He raised his stone staff and slammed it towards Zhao Fu, while Zhao Fu raised his sword and counterattacked. Boom! 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 Massive explosions sounded out in the sky, and the aura of destruction caused countless people to feel incredibly shocked. This was a battle that exceeded the limits of humans, and it was like a battle between gods. In terms of battle, Zhao Fu still had the advantage. After all, China's clan armament was more powerful than India's clan armament, and in terms of fate, China had a massive advantage. As such, as the battle went on, Shama gradually fell into a disadvantage. Shama understood this and decided not to continue like this. He focused all of his power on the 5-colored eye on his forehead. The eye continuously spun in its sockets, giving off a 5-colored light. Even though it was quite beautiful, it gave off an aura of destruction, nothingness, and destruction. It flooded out like a flood and swept through the western side of the Midland continent, causing everyone to feel a chill as if they were in an icy cavern. That eye was the Forbidden Eye. Zhao Fu also sensed immense danger, and his hairs stood on end as he felt a chill in his heart. At that moment, the golden dragon's voice became somewhat serious as it said, "Zhao Fu, leave your body to me and let me control it." Zhao Fu thought about it and agreed. Following this, the golden dragon's consciousness entered Zhao Fu's mind, and Zhao Fu's eyes became 4 pupils, one blood red and one black. Even though there were no changes to his power, his aura became quite different. Shama started to attack and yelled, "All things to nothingness." The entire world trembled as if it was in fear. The 5-colored eye stared at Zhao Fu and gave off a large amount of 5-colored light. Following this, everything in the heavens and earth turned into nothingness. Anything in this eye would be easily erased, and even godly spirits would not be able to resist at all. Heaven and earth soared. At that moment, Zhao Fu, or rather, the golden dragon, roared as he slashed out with his sword. However, it was as if nothing had happened, as if an ordinary person had slashed out with their sword. Zhao Fu felt quite startled and understood what was going on. But then, the world soundlessly seemed to be split in two. Not only the sky, but the earth as well. Everything was split in two. The sky was a very long and straight fissure, and the ground was also a very deep fissure. It was impossible to tell how long it was, but it was also very straight. Shama looked quite shocked as his body had been split in half from his head down. Chapter 6:15. What kind of attack is this? Zhao Fu asked in shock. The Golden Dragon calmly replied, It's just an origin energy attack. Right now, you're too weak and can't control it at all. If it wasn't for all of China's fate supporting you, I wouldn't have been able to use it either. Zhao Fu understood that his level was quite low. Clang, clang, clang. The Golden Dragon controlled Zhao Fu's body and used the king's crown, causing countless chains to fly out and pierce through Shama's corpse. 3 items were bound up by the chains and pulled out. The 3 items were a glass peacock, a 30-centimeter-long stone staff, and an Azure City Lord seal. These 3 items gave off different terrifying powers and continuously struggled, wanting to break free from the chains. However, either the Golden Dragon or Zhao Fu used China's fate to forcefully suppress them, and the 3 items were put away by Zhao Fu. If a legatee died before the city was constructed, it would not be a big loss. They would be like ordinary people, and their cultivation would be reset to 0. However, the legatee's status would not change, as they would not truly die. As such, the legatee would only lose a bit of fate. However, after the city was constructed, things would be different. After condensing a City Lord seal, if the legatee died, the City Lord seal would remain in their body and be obtained by someone else. When that happened, the city would be in great danger, as it would fall into someone else's hands. This was why the other 2 dynasty legatees did not dare to meet with Zhao Fu. However, it was not as if there was no way around this. As a legatee, they had a certain amount of power, such as destroying a city and turning it back into a town before condensing a City Lord seal again. This way, the City Lord seal in Zhao Fu's hands would become ineffective. As for the nation armament and clan armament, the Golden Dragon had grasped a secret technique that allowed it to kill a legatee and use their corpses as bait to forcefully take the 2 nation armaments that were still in the city. Now that Shama had died, almost all of the Indian people's faith had collapsed. Now that they saw Zhao Fu's godlike power that could destroy the heavens and the earth, they were filled with terror and retreated. The Chinese side naturally chased after them. With Shama's death, the other battlefields also lost their ability to fight. Lu Yi stood in the air, his pupils constricting, feeling extremely shocked in his heart. That was because the sword crack had already extended all the way here. It had to be known that this place was 2 regions away from the main battlefield. At that time there was no sound. It was like a gentle breeze had blown past. Heaven and earth had been split in 2, and countless people had been transformed into a mist of blood. This sort of power was simply too terrifying, and Imperial Prince Qin's methods were truly terrifying. Now that all of the terrifying ripples had disappeared, the Huaxia side could clearly sense a massive amount of fate flowing into Huaxia. After all, this was a battle between 2 great kingdoms and 2 great races, and they had mobilized all of their fate. Of course, the loser would suffer a great loss of vitality, and a large amount of luck would be absorbed by China. Through this, countless people in Huaxia had learned that Huaxia, as well as Qin the Crown Prince, had won this destructive war. All hail China! Long live China! China is the strongest! Countless people excitedly yelled, filled with excitement. From the commoners to the leaders of the large factions, all of them were overjoyed at this victory. After all, India was China's greatest enemy and competitor. Now that they had officially defeated it, everyone was overjoyed. India's defeat was a great blow to their vitality, and they would not dare to invade so openly in the future. Now, China did not have to worry too much about India's threat. The rest of the world felt quite disappointed because China was simply too powerful. They had hoped that India would win, as that way, they would be able to suppress China, making it much easier for them to face China in the future. The smaller countries that had supported India all became mute and did not make a single sound. However, no one had expected something else to explode like a massive bomb. That was 3 million or so people from India had died. This did not mean that they had died in the Heaven Awakened world, but in the real world. In the real world, if dozens of people died, it would shake the entire country. However, 3 million or so people had died, and the entire world would be shaken. How could so many people have died? What the hell happened? Countless people felt terror within their hearts. Thinking about how many people had died, their bodies trembled. After all, this was in the real world. It was not just the various large countries that felt shocked and afraid. The Chinese side was also incredibly shocked and even panicked. They had never thought that such a thing would happen. Countless people could not understand why such a thing had happened. Suddenly, someone thought of something. Qin had participated in this battle, and he had said that China would definitely win. Could it be that Qin had obtained something that could kill players? This guess was quickly confirmed. It was indeed done by Qin. Immediately, the entire world gasped. They had never thought that Qin would have such a method. It was simply too terrifying, and no one dared to oppose Qin. Now that they had died, they would truly die. Moreover, that person did not fear death. This undoubtedly increased the danger that Qin was in by more than 10 times. Those who had opposed Qin still felt a lingering fear. If Qin had used such a method, they would all have died. By now, all of the voices insulting and opposing Qin had disappeared, and no one dared to make a single sound. This was indeed done by Qin, and he had used reality-harming talismans. Before, Zhao Fu had taken out 1 million elites from the army and given each of them a talisman. Of course, before, Zhao Fu had not told them what the talismans were used for. Without the reality-harming talismans, the Indian army would not have retreated. It was because so many people had died that they had been terrified and had retreated without hesitation. The Chinese side flooded forwards, chasing after the Indian players. Because they were still in Chinese territory, the Indian players were still invaders, and killing them would give 4 times the rewards. Zhao Fu looked at the Azure City Lord seal in his hand, and did not hesitate at all. From the information he had obtained, Zhao Fu had found out that the Maurya dynasty was near the border of India. As the number 1 dynasty in India, his location had long since been exposed. Zhao Fu did not care about anything else and turned into a ray of light as he flew in that direction. Zhao Fu naturally felt quite excited and nervous because Zhao Fu was about to conquer an entire dynasty. Of course, he was also quite worried. Even though he would not be able to log in for 10 days after dying, perhaps there would be a way to re-enter the Heaven Awakened world early. Chapter 6:16. Feeling quite nervous, Zhao Fu continuously increased his speed and flew extremely quickly. The scenery around him flashed by, and he continuously teleported through teleportation channels. In the end, Zhao Fu found the Maurya dynasty. The Maurya dynasty was currently under martial law, and soldiers held weapons as they guarded their surroundings in case any enemies appeared. There were also soldiers patrolling everywhere to prevent anyone from sneaking in. They had received news that Shama had died and the City Lord seal had fallen into someone else's hands, so they had to defend the Maurya city and wait for Shama to re-enter the Heaven Awakened world. After a lord died in the Heaven Awakened world, they would not respawn and would respawn within their territory. After Shama died and returned to the real world, he did not know that his nation armament and clan armament had been taken by the Golden Dragon. Now, he knew that the City Lord seal had fallen into someone else's hands, so he was in a hurry to come up. He had obtained an item that could reduce the death penalty to 10 hours. There were still a few minutes before he could re-enter the heaven-awakened world. If it was an ordinary person, Shama would not be worried at all. After all, even if the city lord's seal fell into someone else's hands, the nation armament and clan armament would automatically protect the city. However, the person he was facing was Qin's legatee, so Shama felt quite worried and had a bad feeling. By now, Zhao Fu had already snuck into the Moria city. Because Zhao Fu not only had a powerful cultivation, but he was also an assassin and could become invisible, he was able to hide his aura and easily sneak in without anyone noticing. Zhao Fu went straight to the city hall, which was currently protected by a green energy barrier. Many people were still attacking it. These people were, of course, the Maurya dynasty's soldiers. If they could destroy the energy barrier, anyone would be able to conquer the city. In order to be safe, the historical figure decided to destroy the energy barrier because he found that the nation armament and clan armament had disappeared. It was a pity that this was a dynasty-level energy barrier, and after countless people attacked for nearly 10 hours, they had only been able to cause some cracks to appear on the energy barrier. Zhao Fu continued to silently sneak in. Because he had the city lord's seal, the energy barrier was useless against Zhao Fu and did not stop Zhao Fu at all. By now, Shama had re-entered the heaven-awakened world. Seeing that there were no signs of anyone intruding, he felt a bit more at ease. However, Zhao Fu had already placed his hand on the city heart, choosing to migrate and occupy it. Roar! A ray of green light shot into the sky, dyeing the entire sky green. Following this, a resounding dragon's roar sounded out, turning into a corporeal sound wave that sounded throughout India. It was filled with pain, unwillingness, and grief. The Indian Empire, which had lost the war, looked quite dispirited. However, when they heard this dragon's roar, their expressions all changed. A dynasty's legatee had been destroyed. In the sky, a divine dragon that was hundreds of meters long and gave off an azure light, giving off a powerful aura, let out a sorrowful cry. It struggled a few times in the air before its massive body slowly disintegrated into motes of light and dissipated. Everyone in Peacock City stared at the sky in shock, unable to believe that this was real. Shama's eyes widened as he charged towards the city lord's hall. Notification: the Peacock dynasty perished, and the luck it represented was all devoured by Qin, and Qin obtained a lot of luck. System announcement: Qin has destroyed the Peacock dynasty and obtained all of the Peacock dynasty's legacy. System announcement: Qin's city heart has evolved, and a system announcement has been completed. Qin Zhen has obtained 1/5 of the Peacock dynasty's stat. System announcement: Nation Armament 12 Metal Colossi has evolved and leveled up into a level 6 Nation Armament. System announcement: Clan Armament Imperial Ruler's Seal has evolved and leveled up into a level 5 Clan Armament. System announcement: You have conquered a large city with a dynasty legacy and obtained 5,000 achievement points. System announcement: You have relocated a large city and obtained 620,000 EXP. Hearing the system announcements in his mind, Zhao Fu couldn't help but loudly laugh before rushing into the sky. He ignored the countless people's furious, hateful, and pleading gazes and turned into a ray of black light as he shot over the horizon. Shama collapsed to the ground, his eyes hollow as tears continuously flowed out. The Peacock dynasty was finished just like that, and he had lost the most important thing in his life. The Peacock City's 3 million or so people fell into deep grief, and many people started to loudly cry. Today was the end of a dynasty. Zhao Fu held the city creation stone and quickly returned, smiling on the way. He had actually destroyed a dynasty, and the fate he had obtained caused Great Qin's fate to recover 2/3 of what it had been before. Moreover, his clan armament and nation armament had once again leveled up. The requirement to level up a city heart was to destroy a dynasty, which was equivalent to 5 nation legacies. Haha, his gains this time were simply too monstrous. Not only had he obtained a nation armament and clan armament, but he had also destroyed the Peacock dynasty. News of this quickly spread to the real world, and some Chinese people were incredibly happy. Not only had they destroyed a dynasty, but they had also suppressed a nation armament and clan armament by Qin. Some people sighed, as Qin's power was going to grow. However, they had never thought that Qin would be able to refine other people's nation armaments and clan armaments. They thought that they had been suppressed by Qin because they were not the legatees of a dynasty and could not use nation armaments and clan armaments. On India's side, countless people were incredibly furious. Not only had so many people died, but their dynasty had also been destroyed and their clan armament had been suppressed. India sent an army to China's border in the real world, demanding an explanation. The Chinese side did not reply because they could not do anything to Qin. Moreover, Qin had destroyed many of the governmental factions in the past, and in terms of military strength, China could easily crush India, so they did not fear them. India did not have much confidence, so they did not dare to directly attack and only demanded an explanation. India had wanted to work with America and the other smaller countries to put pressure on China. However, none of the smaller countries dared to say anything. America could not even protect itself and did not have any legacies in the Heaven Awakened world. As such, they could only rely on stealing indigenous legacies to focus on developing, and they did not have time to care about such things. Now, apart from having more people, they did not have to worry about India being a threat. China was now the most powerful country in the Midland continent, and no one was a match for it. The situation in China was now set. After Zhao Fu returned to China's border region, the other 3 dynasty legatees were incredibly wary of Zhao Fu. Even Lu Yi, who had been quite confident, was persuaded to return to his own region. Chapter 6:17. Zhao Fu did not mind them. He had achieved his goal. Following this, Zhao Fu gave out a quest to recruit Indian indigenous residents for a high price of 1 gold coin per person. This made countless people feel incredibly tempted, as 1 gold coin was equivalent to 10,000 copper coins. If they conquered a village, they would be able to kill at least a few hundred people, and they would be able to obtain at least a few hundred gold coins. In the real world, that would be equivalent to winning the lottery. Many people excitedly rushed into India's territory and started to search for Indian indigenous residents. India did not have much strength to resist, and because they were afraid of dying, they continuously retreated. In just a few days, the Chinese side had conquered 10 or so Indian regions. Zhao Fu stayed here for a few days, and people continuously sent Indian indigenous residents over. Zhao Fu had already announced that he would only take in 1 million Indian indigenous residents. Seeing how wealthy Qin Zhao was, the players all enthusiastically participated and continuously plundered Indian indigenous residents to send to Zhao Fu. The Chinese players did not have good feelings towards these Indian indigenous residents, and they would normally kill them and take their resources. Now that Zhao Fu was buying them, he had saved them, and the players gained a massive income. The Otherworld Gate continuously teleported people every day and night, and after Zhao Fu stayed here for a few days, he returned to Qin Kingdom. After hearing that Qin Kingdom's legatee had left, the Indian indigenous residents started to resist. By now, the Indian indigenous resident Zhao Fu had bought 100,000 indigenous residents and brought them back to Qin Kingdom. He continued to buy more and teleport them back. Now that he could refine a nation armament, Zhao Fu had a trace of a smile on his face. Before, Zhao Fu had rebuilt the Moria city. It had originally been a large city, but after being relocated, it had become a basic city, which was quite a pity. Zhao Fu gave the position of city lord to Bai Shihan for now. The Moria city was legendary grade, and its stats were naturally quite good. However, since it was the Indian dynasty, Zhao Fu felt that giving it to an Indian person would be more useful. However, Zhao Fu did not have any Indian people that he could use, so he temporarily gave them to Bai Shihan. If there were any suitable Indian people, he would give them to Zhao Fu. Only Indian people could fully unleash Maurya city's power. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to the conference hall. At that moment, there were 9 Indian women waiting for him. They were undoubtedly very beautiful, and they also had strong phoenix chi. This was a special task given by Zhao Fu to Lu Mei and the others, which was to capture various women of the Peacock Imperial Court. A lot of the information obtained from Flower Moon was about them. The first was around 40 years old, and had a good face and a well-developed figure. Even though she was quite old, she had a unique charm and gave off a mature aura. She was called Clement, and she was Sarah's mother. The second one was also quite beautiful. She had a graceful figure and gave off a noble aura. She was called Biar, and she was one of Sarah's 3 aunts. The third person gave off an elegant aura. Her facial features were exquisite and she had a slim figure. She was called Joey, and she was Sarah's aunt. The fourth was a languid-looking middle-aged woman with a good figure and enchanting looks. She was called Jenny, and she was Sarah's aunt. The fifth was Sarah's aunt, and she was a mature middle-aged woman called Team. The sixth was Sarah's aunt. She had small facial features and a slim figure, and she gave off a weak aura. She was called Ruth. The seventh was Sarah's sister-in-law. She was quite good-looking and had a voluptuous figure, and she gave off a trace of sexiness. She was a widow, and Sarah's big brother had died long ago. The eighth had delicate facial features and a slim figure, and she looked quite lively and cheerful. She was Sarah's little sister, and she was called Daphne. The ninth was a very beautiful woman with a graceful figure, but she gave off a serious aura. She was Sarah's fiancée, and she was also from a large family. She was called Angela. Looking at these 9 women, Zhao Fu did not say much and directly made them concubines. Large amounts of phoenix chi flowed out of their bodies and entered the Emperor Phoenix statue, causing the Emperor Phoenix's power to once again become stronger. They had never expected Zhao Fu to suddenly make them concubines, and they all had complicated expressions on their faces. Some looked quite unsightly, while others looked quite worried. They were the primers for refining the Maurya dynasty's nation armament. Because Zhao Fu was going to refine the Maurya dynasty's nation armament, he smiled and asked the Golden Dragon, "What are the steps to refining a nation armament?" Following this, Zhao Fu followed the Golden Dragon's instructions and started to make preparations. He first prepared a very large room that was 300 meters wide, and there were 10 3-meter-tall stone pillars that formed a circle. There were also countless chains on the stone pillars, and there were 2 items bound to these chains. These 2 items were naturally the nation armament and clan armament. They were currently being suppressed by Zhao Fu's magic formations, but they floated in the air and continuously struggled. Between the 10 stone pillars, there was a 1-meter-tall platform. There was a spirit formation on it, with a dragon carved on one side and a phoenix carved on the other. There was also a layer of warm jade on the surface of the platform. Walking on it barefoot, it was not cold, but rather warm. And then, Zhao Fu brought the 9 women to the room and asked the Golden Dragon. The Golden Dragon quickly replied, "Take them, or do some other things." Zhao Fu felt quite speechless and asked what they were doing before saying to the 9 women, "Your Maurya dynasty has been destroyed. Not only has your nation armament been destroyed, but even your clan armament has been suppressed by me. Your Indian people have no hope of winning at all. As long as you are willing to become my concubines and stay in Qin, not only will I not destroy your families, but I will also give your families nobility and protect them." Hearing this, the 9 women could only sigh. Right now, they did not have any strength to resist. Not only did they have to think about themselves, but they also had to think about their families. If they could be protected by Qin, their families would definitely be safe. Zhao Fu brought them to the stage, and the first thing he saw was Shama's mother, who was also looking at him flirtatiously. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and brought her into his embrace, and Shama's mother lightly hugged Zhao Fu's waist as she flirtatiously smiled and said, "Your Majesty, can you not kill Shama in the future?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu lightly nodded, and Shama's mother's smile became even brighter as she kissed Zhao Fu. She stuck her tongue into Zhao Fu's mouth, and her tongue skillfully intertwined with Zhao Fu's. The two of them tightly hugged each other, and their bodies' temperature continuously rose as they continued to fondle each other. The other women all looked slightly embarrassed. They all knew each other and were quite familiar with each other. Seeing Shama's mother, who was their senior, passionately kissing another man, this scene was simply too taboo. Shama's little sister looked quite worried, and Shama's fiancé was expressionless. The other women all had flirtatious looks on their faces. They were all quite experienced. As Zhao Fu kissed her, he took off Shama's mother's clothes, revealing her entire body. He then continuously fondled and kneaded her body, causing Shama's mother's body to tremble, and Zhao Fu's hands became wet. Shama's mother's body became powerless, and Zhao Fu put her on the ground. Black Dragon Qi continuously rose up from Shama's mother's body, while Golden Phoenix Qi continuously rose up from Shama's mother's body. The two auras fused together, turning into a black and gold aura that entered the nation armament. The nation armament's resistance was no longer as strong. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.